Discussion on verses 1 to 83 of 83. The full meaning of the opening verse remains unknown. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 1.
Yaseen.
Nevertheless, this may indicate that the Holy Quran is composed of the same Arabic letters and expressions familiar to the Arabs, who were its first audience. This demonstrates that they had no valid reason to doubt its divine origin, as they fully understood its language and directly witnessed its unmatched eloquence. Even though they were celebrated masters of Arabic and took great pride in their linguistic skill, they could not produce even a single composition comparable to the Holy Quran in depth of meaning, clarity of expression, and perfection of guidance. Their inability to equal it, despite possessing every linguistic advantage, remains an enduring and irrefutable proof of its divine origin. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 23.
And if you are in some doubt concerning what we sent down upon our special devotee, then bring one chapter like it, and call upon all your helpers beside Allah if you are truthful.
This may clarify why the Holy Quran is mentioned immediately in the subsequent verse. Its specific placement highlights that the very scripture revealed to those individuals, formed from the same familiar letters and language they utilized, stands as the clearest proof of its divine origin and the most powerful response to their persistent doubts. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 2.
By the wise Quran.
Even if an individual attained the absolute pinnacle of Arabic eloquence, their words would still fall short of the expansive wisdom found within the Holy Quran regarding the human psyche and moral excellence. No worldly composition can replicate its seamless fusion of simplicity and sophistication. It provides depths that challenge the most learned scholars while remaining accessible enough for any seeker to apply to their daily life. The Holy Quran stands alone in its ability to translate abstract, profound truths into clear and practical guidance for all of humanity. It penetrates the core of human nature, offering a timeless framework relevant to every person, society, and era. Each verse serves as a powerful witness to its divine source, characterized by unmatched precision and a level of eloquence that transcends all human speech. In contrast to other texts that may suffer from contradictions, the Holy Quran is entirely preserved from error by Allah the Exalted. It offers a flawless narrative of ancient civilizations, despite being conveyed through the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who had no formal education in history or past scriptures. Furthermore, the Holy Quran acts as a comprehensive guide for the benefit of mankind, promoting everything that enriches life and prohibiting all that is detrimental. It fosters justice and harmony within both the individual and the community, avoiding the embellishments typical of myth or poetry. Every verse is intentional and refreshing. Even upon repeated recitation, the text reveals new layers of insight and wisdom. By grounding its promises and warnings in reason, and by making virtues like patience practical to achieve, the Holy Quran renders divine guidance both understandable and attainable for all. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 2.
By the wise Quran.
The Holy Quran invites humanity to recognize the foundational purpose of existence, to serve Allah the Exalted with sincerity by utilizing every granted blessing to seek His pleasure. Through this devoted obedience, individuals secure tranquility and triumph in both this life and the hereafter, achieving a state of harmony where the mind, body, and soul are aligned in their rightful order. For the seeker of enduring peace and fulfillment, the Holy Quran lights the straight path with unparalleled clarity and grace. Its guidance is perfectly attuned to human nature, remaining timeless and relevant across all cultures and eras. When embraced and applied, it provides comprehensive solutions for every aspect of the human experience, resolving emotional, financial, and physical struggles while balancing the needs of the individual with those of society. History offers clear testimony to the transformative power of these teachings. Communities that genuinely implemented its message ascended to extraordinary heights of justice, wisdom, and collective peace. Perhaps most remarkable is the divine preservation of the text itself. Throughout the passing centuries, not a single letter of the Holy Quran has been altered, as Allah the Exalted has pledged to safeguard it for all eternity. Chapter 15 Al-Hijr, verse 9.
Indeed, it is we who sent down the message, i.e. the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian.
No other text throughout human history possesses this extraordinary and peerless quality. Allah, the Exalted, directly addresses the core challenges faced by every civilization, providing the most effective and lasting solutions. By resolving these fundamental issues, the Holy Quran prevents or alleviates the myriad secondary problems that would otherwise arise from them. This underscores the perfection and absolute completeness of its guidance. It encompasses every essential principle necessary for the prosperity, stability, and moral advancement of both the individual and society. By adhering to its teachings, humanity achieves genuine success in this life and secures eternal salvation in the hereafter. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 89.
And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things.
This stands as the most extraordinary and enduring miracle that Allah, the Exalted, bestowed upon His final messenger, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 3-5.
Indeed you are from among the messengers, on a straight path, a revelation of the Exalted in might, the Merciful.
However, its profound guidance and benefits are reserved exclusively for those who approach it with a spirit of sincerity, humility, and a genuine yearning for the truth. Those who permit their personal desires and worldly inclinations to dictate their faith, accepting only the portions that align with their preferences while disregarding or rejecting what challenges them, ultimately distance themselves from its transformative power. Such selective obedience yields only confusion, loss, and profound regret, both in this present world and in the hereafter. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 82.
And we send down of the Quran that which is healing and mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss.
Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 1.
Yaseen.
This chapter of the Holy Quran, mirroring many others, begins with distinct standalone letters whose precise meanings are known only to Allah, the Exalted. Their presence serves as a powerful reminder of the boundaries of human intellect and the essential need for humility when engaging with divine scripture. These letters affirm that the Holy Quran is not a product of human thought, but is a direct revelation from Allah, the Exalted. When individuals acknowledge the limitations of their own reasoning, they open their hearts to receive the profound wisdom contained within the text. In contrast, those who approach the scripture with pride, relying solely on their own logic and dismissing anything that exceeds their comprehension, often fall into doubt and uncertainty. When such individuals meet verses that transcend human logic, they may turn to denial or distortion. This occurs not because of any flaw in the Holy Quran, but because their own arrogance prevents them from perceiving the truth. The bond between a person and the Holy Quran can be compared to the relationship between a humble student and a wise teacher. A sincere student grows even from lessons that are difficult or not immediately clear. With patience, understanding eventually dawns. However, the arrogant student, who only accepts what aligns with their existing views, shuts themselves off from true knowledge. Only those who approach the Holy Quran with reverence and a modest spirit will fully experience the benefit of its guidance. This humility brings a sense of peace to the heart, aligning the mind and body with divine wisdom. It allows a person to recognize the proper place of every aspect of life, according to the perfect order established by Allah, the Exalted. Ultimately, humility before the Holy Quran is not just a way of thinking, it is the essential path to balance, serenity, and lasting success in both this life and the life to come. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 1.
Yaseen.
The foundational element of all human communication and knowledge is built upon letters. Thus, the opening of this chapter may also underscore the vital role that knowledge plays in existence. It serves as a reminder that understanding is indispensable for navigating both worldly responsibilities and spiritual realities. Every individual is obligated to pursue and apply beneficial knowledge, a duty emphasized in the prophetic traditions regarding the responsibilities of the faithful. Ignorance inevitably results in misguidance and wrongdoing, as a lack of knowledge leaves one unable to distinguish truth from falsehood or avoid moral pitfalls. However, the mere possession of information is insufficient. Its true worth is realized only when it is transformed into practice. Knowledge that remains unacted upon is comparable to a map that is never consulted. While it may depict the route to success, it cannot bring anyone to their destination unless they actively follow it. Just as a traveler must walk the path indicated by their map, a person must act upon their understanding to achieve genuine guidance and spiritual growth. Consequently, beneficial knowledge must be both earned and embodied. It should polish an individual's character, purify their motivations, and govern their conduct. When theoretical understanding is translated into tangible action, it becomes a source of light, illuminating the journey for both the individual and their community. In this manner, the sincere pursuit and application of beneficial knowledge lead to true success in this life and eternal salvation in the life to come, by the will of Allah the Exalted. Chapter 62 Al-Jumu'ah, verse 5.
And then did not take it on, did not act upon knowledge, is like that of a donkey who carries volumes of books.
The highest and most profound form of guidance bestowed upon humanity is illuminated in the subsequent verse, demonstrating that all other branches of knowledge ultimately find their completion and perfection within the divine wisdom of the Holy Quran. This sacred knowledge provides a comprehensive framework for every dimension of human existence, addressing both worldly requirements and spiritual aspirations. By adhering to these teachings, individuals achieve a harmonious mental and physical state, organizing every priority and relationship in their lives with correct order and purpose. Through this alignment, they ensure genuine success in this world and secure eternal salvation in the hereafter, by the grace of Allah the Exalted. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 2.
By the wise Quran.
To derive true benefit from the Holy Quran, one must engage with it in accordance with the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This process requires more than just accurate and consistent recitation. It demands a sincere effort to grasp its meanings and integrate its guidance into every aspect of daily life. Recitation without comprehension is insufficient, as the Holy Quran is not merely a text for vocal performance, it is a comprehensive and practical source of divine instruction. Genuine transformation occurs only when its principles are actively applied. Much like a map provides no value unless the traveler follows the route, the Holy Quran serves as a guide only for those who walk the path it describes. Furthermore, the Holy Quran must not be treated as a tool for materialistic gain, such as the repetitive recitation of specific verses solely to secure worldly wealth, children, or personal status. It was not revealed to fulfill individual whims, as worldly blessings have their own divinely ordained means. Instead, the Holy Quran directs humanity toward the balanced and ethical use of the blessings granted to them by Allah, the Exalted. Those who sincerely follow its guidance achieve a profound harmony of mind and body, managing their lives with wisdom and divine purpose. By adhering to its laws, they prepare themselves diligently for accountability on the Day of Judgment. In this way, they secure peace, success, and balance in both this life and the hereafter. Thus, the Holy Quran is not only the pinnacle of knowledge but the ultimate manual for righteous living, transforming hearts, conduct, and entire societies when approached with sincerity, humility, and action. As discussed earlier, the Holy Quran does not only contain divine law but it also contains wisdom. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 2.
By the wise Quran.
This verse highlights that the Quran is not merely a book of rules and regulations, but a source of profound wisdom that guides humanity in every aspect of life. The law within the Quran is the code of conduct people must live by, so that they correctly use the blessings they have been granted. By adhering to this divine law, individuals achieve peace of mind and fulfill the rights owed to Allah the Exalted and to fellow people. The law therefore ensures the spread of peace and justice within society, creating a framework where fairness, compassion, and accountability are upheld. Wisdom, however, is equally essential, as it teaches people how to correctly apply their knowledge, including the law, so that it benefits them and others in both worlds. Wisdom provides the insight, foresight, and sincerity needed to implement the law in a way that achieves its intended purpose. Both law and wisdom are required in order to create a just and peaceful society. The law without wisdom can be easily misinterpreted, as people may exploit loopholes or manipulate its wording to wrong others while outwardly appearing compliant. Wisdom without the law, on the other hand, leads people to adopt a code of conduct based on their own definitions of what is correct and upright, which inevitably varies according to personal biases and limited understanding. All man-made codes of conduct will never lead to true peace of mind because they are restricted by human limitations, a lack of complete knowledge, insufficient experience, short-sightedness, and biases, whether intentional or unintentional. Human systems are therefore flawed and unstable, unable to provide lasting justice or balance. For this reason, wisdom without the divine law will also prevent one from achieving peace of mind, as it lacks the foundation of absolute truth. It will further prevent the spread of peace and justice within society, as people will fail to fulfill the rights of others. Only when divine law and divine wisdom are combined can humanity achieve harmony, balance, and success in both this world and the hereafter. Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no direct interaction with the previous divine scriptures. This fact was acknowledged not only by the people of the book, but also by the non-Muslims of Mecca, who knew his life intimately. He had not studied, recited, or inscribed any of the earlier revelations, whether in their original or altered forms. His life prior to prophethood was marked by simplicity, honesty, and integrity, without any formal education in religious texts. This undeniable reality further strengthens the case for the divine origin of the Holy Quran, for its profound knowledge of past scriptures, its correction of distortions, and its presentation of eternal truths could only have come from Allah, the Exalted, whose knowledge encompasses all things. Chapter 29, Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
This verse highlights that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was unlettered and had no worldly means of acquiring the knowledge contained in the Holy Quran. Had he been known to study or write from previous scriptures, opponents of Islam would have had grounds to claim that the Holy Quran was borrowed or fabricated. Yet, as the verse makes clear, this was not the case. His lack of prior interaction with scripture removes all doubt and leaves only one explanation. The Holy Quran is a direct revelation from Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 3.
Indeed, you are from among the messengers.
This declaration affirms that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was chosen by Allah, the Exalted, as a messenger, and that the Holy Quran he conveyed was not the product of human effort but a divine revelation. In fact, the non-Muslims of Mecca themselves, being masters of the Arabic language, recognized that the Holy Quran was not the words of a created being. Its eloquence, depth, and unmatched style were beyond human capacity. Moreover, they had lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for 40 years before his announcement of prophethood. They knew his character, his honesty, and his truthfulness, and they were aware that he was no liar. Chapter 10, Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
This verse appeals to their own knowledge and experience. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had lived among them for decades without ever claiming revelation or producing scripture. His sudden proclamation, a divine revelation, coupled with the unmatched eloquence of the Holy Quran, could not be explained by human effort. It was clear evidence that he was indeed a messenger of Allah, the Exalted, and that the Holy Quran was a miracle granted to him by Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verses 3 to 5.
Indeed, you are from among the messengers, on a straight path, a revelation of the Exalted in might, the Merciful.
It leads people to the path of peace of mind in both worlds, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life, and to justice within society, through fulfilling the rights of people. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 6.
That you may warn a people whose forefathers were not warned, so they are unaware.
It is important to recognize that good news and warnings only truly benefit when a person responds to them with practical action. Words alone, whether promises of reward or cautions of punishment, will not transform a person's state unless they are accompanied by obedience and the correct use of the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted. When a person responds practically by living according to Islamic teachings, they achieve peace of mind in both worlds. This peace comes through attaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life according to divine guidance. By contrast, the one who ignores these warnings and good news, persisting in misuse of their blessings, will inevitably fall into imbalance. Their mental and physical state will deteriorate, their life will become disordered, and they will neglect preparation for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they will face stress, hardship, and difficulty in both worlds, even if they outwardly appear to enjoy certain worldly luxuries. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 7.
Already, the word has come into effect upon most of them, so they do not believe.
Obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires of people. Many arrogantly persist in disobedience, misusing the blessings they have been granted. This arrogance blinds them, preventing them from appreciating the consequences of their actions. As a result, they continue to disobey Allah, the Exalted, oblivious to the harm they cause themselves, sinking deeper into mental and physical imbalance and misplacing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 8.
Indeed, we have put shackles on their necks and there to their chins, so they are with heads kept aloft.
This imagery conveys the state of arrogance and blindness. Their heads are lifted high in pride, yet their shackles prevent them from turning toward truth. Even though the placing of shackles is attributed to Allah, the Exalted, as nothing occurs within the universe without His will, it is clear that this outcome is the direct result of their own arrogance. Their pride and stubbornness lead them into a state where they cannot perceive guidance, and thus they remain trapped in disobedience. This passage serves as a timeless reminder. Divine warnings and good news are not abstract concepts but calls to action. Those who respond with humility and obedience find balance, peace, and success in both worlds, while those who persist in arrogance and misuse of blessings condemn themselves to imbalance, hardship, and eventual ruin. Not only does the arrogant person, dominated by their worldly desires and aspirations, become blinded from observing the immediate consequences of their actions, like a blind man walking towards the edge of a cliff, but their attitude also prevents them from appreciating the long-term effects of their behavior on different aspects of their life, such as their marriage, family, and career. Their arrogance clouds their judgment, making them unable to recognize how their choices gradually erode the foundations of their relationships and responsibilities. Instead of correcting themselves, they persist in their heedlessness, and this prevents them from learning from their past mistakes. As a result, they become entangled in a repeated cycle of distress and mental health struggles, unable to find a way to break free from the darkness that surrounds them. Furthermore, their attitude prevents them from learning lessons from history and from the people around them who adopted the same behavior. They fail to see how arrogance and indulgence in worldly desires led others to ruin, even when those examples are clear and present. This blindness causes them to repeat the same errors, leading to an unbalanced mental and physical state, and misplacing everything and everyone within their life. They wrongly prioritize wealth, fame, or pleasure over sincerity, gratitude, and responsibility. The lives of celebrities, who often suffer from stress, broken relationships, and inner emptiness despite outward luxuries, serve as a visible example of this reality. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 9.
And we have put before them a barrier, and behind them a barrier, and covered them so they do not see.
This verse illustrates the state of those who persist in arrogance. Their pride and desires place barriers before and behind them, preventing them from perceiving truth, while a covering blinds their vision entirely. Though this outcome is attributed to Allah, the Exalted, as nothing occurs without His will, it is ultimately the result of their own arrogance and stubbornness. Their refusal to humble themselves and reflect upon their actions leads them into a state of blindness, where they cannot see the harm they cause themselves or the lessons that surround them. As a result of their attitude, such individuals do not respond to the advice or warnings they are given, for they have been consumed by their worldly desires. Their condition resembles that of a drug addict, whose addiction drives them to substances that strip them of control over their behavior. In this state, they may commit wrongful acts such as theft, while remaining oblivious to the harmful effects of their actions, as their addiction has completely clouded their judgment. Their desires dominate them so thoroughly that they cannot perceive the damage they cause to themselves and to others, nor can they recognize the wisdom in the guidance presented to them. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 10.
And it is all the same for them whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe.
This verse illustrates the tragic state of those who persist in arrogance and indulgence. Their hearts have become hardened, and their desires have blinded them to the truth. Whether they are warned or not, they remain unmoved, as their inner corruption prevents them from responding to guidance. Just as an addict cannot easily break free from the grip of their addiction, these individuals cannot escape the hold of their worldly desires without sincere repentance and divine mercy. This condition serves as a warning to all people. When desires are allowed to dominate, they cloud judgment, distort priorities, and prevent one from benefiting from advice or revelation. Only by humbling oneself before Allah, the Exalted, and striving to control desires, can a person remain receptive to guidance and avoid falling into the state described in this verse. Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear that only those who sincerely desire a better life, one in which they obtain peace of mind in both worlds through achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life, will respond positively to divine guidance. Such individuals recognize the benefits of guidance, even though it often contradicts their worldly desires. Their attitude resembles that of a wise patient who accepts and acts upon the medical advice of their doctor, knowing it is ultimately best for them, even when prescribed bitter medicines or a strict diet plan. Just as this patient achieves good mental and physical health by following the doctor's instructions, so too does the person who accepts and acts upon Islamic teachings achieve balance, peace, and fulfillment. In addition, their pure intention allows them to observe the consequences of persisting in disobedience to Allah, the Exalted, by reflecting on the lives of others, whether those in the past or those around them in the present. They see how arrogance and indulgence in worldly desires led others to ruin, and fearing to suffer the same fate, they hasten towards divine guidance. They appreciate the positive effects that obedience has had on those who sincerely implemented divine teachings, recognizing that peace, justice, and balance are the fruits of submission to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 11.
You can only warn one who follows the message, and fears the most merciful unseen.
As a result of this attitude, they remain firm in obeying Allah, the Exalted, by correctly using the blessings He has granted them as outlined in Islamic teachings. This ensures they obtain a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly place everything and everyone within their life, while adequately preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Their obedience and trust in Allah, the Exalted, led them to peace of mind in both worlds. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 11.
So give him good tidings of forgiveness and noble reward.
Whichever path a person chooses in life, whether the path of right guidance that leads to peace of mind in both worlds, or the path of desires that leads to stress and imbalance in both worlds, each individual will inevitably face the consequences of their actions. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 12.
Indeed, it is we who bring the dead to life and record what they have put forth and what they left behind, and all things we have enumerated in a clear register.
This verse makes clear that every deed is preserved, every action is accounted for, and nothing escapes the divine record. Denying the possibility of resurrection is therefore a strange claim, for examples of resurrection are witnessed throughout the days, months, and years. Allah, the Exalted, uses rain to revive barren land, causing dead seeds to burst forth alive to provide sustenance for creation. In the same way, He can and will give life to the human being buried in the earth, just as He brings forth the seed to life. The changing of the seasons also demonstrates resurrection. In winter, trees appear lifeless as their leaves die and fall, yet in spring and summer, they return to life full of greenery. Resurrection is even evident within the human body. Cells continuously die and are replaced, such as skin cells. The sleep-wake cycle is another sign, for sleep is the sister of death, as the senses of the sleeper are cut off. Allah, the Exalted, then returns the soul to the sleeper if they are destined to live on, thereby granting them life once again. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
In addition, the Day of Judgment is something that must occur. Observing the universe reveals countless examples of balance. The earth is positioned at a perfect distance from the sun, ensuring life can exist. The water cycle is balanced to sustain creation. The ground is soft enough for seeds to penetrate, yet strong enough to support heavy structures. These examples clearly indicate a creator and the principle of balance. Yet one aspect of life remains unbalanced: the actions of mankind. Oppressors often escape punishment in this world, while the oppressed endure hardship without receiving their full reward. Many who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, face difficulties and receive only a small portion of reward, while those who disobey openly enjoy worldly luxuries. Just as Allah, the Exalted, has established balance in creation, the reward and punishment of human actions must also be balanced. Since this balance does not occur fully in this world, it must occur in another time, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could reward and punish fully in this world, but His wisdom dictates otherwise. He grants opportunities for repentance, allowing people to correct their behavior. He does not fully reward the obedient here, for this world is not paradise. Belief in the unseen reward of the hereafter is an essential aspect of faith, and it is this belief that makes faith special. If reward were fully visible and tangible in this world, faith would lose its distinction. Fear of full punishment and hope in receiving full reward in the hereafter encourage a person to abstain from sins and perform righteous deeds. For the day of recompense to commence, this material world must end, as reward and punishment can only be given once all actions have concluded. This indicates that the material world will inevitably come to an end. Reflecting on this discussion strengthens faith in the Day of Judgment, encouraging preparation for it by correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing so, a person achieves peace of mind and success in both worlds, through attaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 45, Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
Verse 12 also calls upon people to reflect deeply on what they have prepared for their accountability on Judgment Day, and what traces, positive or negative, they will leave behind in this world. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 12.
Indeed, it is we who bring the dead to life and record what they have put forth and what they left behind, and all things we have enumerated in a clear register.
This verse highlights two dimensions of human responsibility: the deeds a person sends forward to the hereafter, and the legacy they leave behind in this world. Both are recorded, both matter, and both will be presented before them on the Day of Judgment. Worldly legacies, however, are fragile and temporary. History is filled with examples of powerful rulers, wealthy merchants, and influential figures who built vast empires, only for them to collapse and be forgotten soon after their death. The remnants of these legacies often endure only as warnings to others, showing the futility of arrogance and greed. Pharaoh's empire is a striking example, remembered not for its grandeur but for its tyranny and downfall. Such legacies serve as cautionary signs, reminding people that worldly achievements without righteousness are hollow and destructive. Islam teaches that true success lies not in worldly monuments, but in deeds that benefit both the individual in the hereafter and the people they leave behind. A person is encouraged to send blessings ahead of them in the form of righteous deeds, while also striving to leave behind a legacy that continues to benefit others. When someone passes away and leaves behind something useful, such as ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, or righteous children who pray for them, they continue to receive reward even after death. This is confirmed in the hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 4223, which states that when a person dies, their deeds come to an end except for three: ongoing charity, beneficial knowledge, or a righteous child who supplicates for them. Thus, a person should strive to maximize both dimensions, sending forward good deeds and leaving behind a legacy that endures in benefit. Sadly, many people become so consumed with wealth, possessions and properties, that they leave behind only material assets, which do not benefit them in the least in the hereafter. Wealth may be inherited, divided or wasted, but it does not accompany the deceased into the grave. Each person must not be deceived into thinking they have plenty of time to create a meaningful legacy, for death often arrives suddenly and without warning. Today, not tomorrow, is the time to reflect sincerely on what legacy one will leave behind. If the legacy is good and beneficial, they should praise Allah, the Exalted, for granting them the strength to achieve it. If it is lacking, they should hasten to prepare something that will benefit them, so that they not only send forward good to the hereafter, but also leave good behind in this world. The one who surrounds themselves with good in both directions, sending it forward and leaving it behind, will, it is hoped, be forgiven by Allah, the Exalted. This reflection leads to a profound question every person must ask themselves: what is their legacy? Is it one of fleeting possessions and forgotten empires, or one of enduring benefit and righteousness? The answer to this question will shape not only how they are remembered in this world, but also how they are judged in the next. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 12.
And all things we have enumerated in a clear register.
Throughout the Holy Quran, Allah, the Exalted, presents signs within the universe which testify to His oneness and absolute authority, and He also presents examples from history to further emphasize these truths. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verses 13 to 14.
And present to them an example, the people of the city, when the messengers came to it. When we sent to them two, but they denied them, so we strengthened them with a third, and they said, Indeed, we are messengers to you.
This passage highlights how communities throughout history were sent holy prophets, peace be upon them, to guide them, yet many rejected the message out of arrogance and fear of losing worldly power. The leaders of the non-Muslims often employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam, driven by their desire to preserve leadership, wealth, and social influence. One such method was questioning the human nature of the holy prophets, peace be upon them. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 15.
They said, You are not but human beings like us.
This reveals a recurring pattern of disbelief, rejecting guidance on the basis that the messengers were human. Yet the function of a holy prophet, peace be upon them, is uniquely tailored for humanity. It would be unreasonable to appoint beings such as angels for this role, because the primary objective of a holy prophet, peace be upon them, is to serve as a practical, concrete example for people on how to navigate all aspects of life. Humans experience fatigue, hunger, grief, joy, and struggle, conditions that angels do not experience. If an angel were appointed as a prophet, peace be upon him, people could claim that his example was unrealistic and unattainable, thereby excusing themselves before Allah the Exalted on the Day of Judgment. Consequently, even if Allah the Exalted were to designate an angel as a holy prophet, peace be upon them, He would need to manifest him in human form so that people could realistically emulate him. The wisdom in appointing human messengers is therefore clear. They live among their communities, share in their struggles, and demonstrate how divine guidance can be applied in real circumstances. Therefore, why were non-Muslims astonished that a human was selected to inform others? Is it not the most natural and fitting arrangement that a holy prophet, peace be upon them, should be human, guiding humanity through lived example? If people are lost in misguidance and oblivious to the truth, what is truly astonishing is not that Allah, the Exalted, would send guidance, but that they would expect to be left to persist in error without correction. The response of those who disbelieve in this reality is indeed extraordinary, for it reflects arrogance rather than reason. In reality, every person who abandons the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and instead adopts man-made systems of conduct, does so in order to gratify their worldly desires. This is because all codes devised by human beings are ultimately rooted in human inclinations, ambitions, and self-interest. Unlike the divine law, which is founded upon wisdom, justice, and mercy, man-made systems are shaped by the desires of those who create them. The wealthy and powerful are often the most entrenched in this mindset, for they recognize that accepting the truth of Islam would require them to submit to a higher moral framework, one that places limits on their pursuit of unchecked desires. Such submission would restrict their exploitation of others, their indulgence in excess, and their misuse of authority. Out of fear of losing their influence and privileges, they not only reject the truth themselves, but also actively encourage others to follow their lead. In doing so, they attempt to preserve their worldly status, even at the expense of their eternal well-being. This pattern is not new. Historically, the first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often the elites of society, those who feared that embracing divine guidance would undermine their power and expose their injustices. Their rejection was not based on a lack of evidence or clarity regarding the truth of the message, for the signs of Allah, the Exalted, were manifest before them. Rather, their opposition stemmed from arrogance, pride, and the desire to continue living according to their whims. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance is rarely an intellectual dispute about truth or falsehood. Instead, it is most often a matter of the heart, a refusal to restrain one's desires and submit to the authority of the Creator. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 15.
And the Most Merciful has not revealed a thing. You are only telling lies.
This verse captures the essence of their denial. Despite clear signs and undeniable evidence, they dismissed the message as falsehood, claiming that Allah the Exalted had not revealed anything. Such words reflect not reasoned argument, but arrogance and stubbornness. Their rejection was not due to ignorance of the truth, but due to their unwillingness to abandon their desires and submit to divine authority. This timeless pattern continues to manifest in every age, reminding people that disbelief is often rooted not in lack of evidence, but in the refusal of the heart to accept restraint and accountability. As Allah the Exalted does not impose guidance upon people, for this would nullify the test of life, the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were commanded to explain divine guidance clearly and to serve as perfect role models for humanity to emulate. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 16 to 17.
They said, Our Lord knows that we are messengers to you, and we are not responsible except for clear notification.
And chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verses 21 to 22.
So remind you are only a reminder. You are not over them a controller.
These verses establish a timeless principle for all who call others to righteousness. The responsibility of the caller is not to compel belief, but to convey the truth with clarity, sincerity, and compassion, leaving the outcome to Allah the Exalted, who alone guides hearts. This understanding frees the caller from grief and frustration when their efforts appear fruitless, reminding them that success is measured not by numbers or worldly recognition, but by faithfulness in delivering the message. Those who genuinely seek guidance will recognize it when they encounter it, while those who persist in arrogance and heedlessness only harm themselves. The sincere seeker also understands that Allah, the Exalted, never burdens a soul beyond its capacity. Every trial faced is an opportunity to grow in patience, discipline, and faith. They realize that peace in this world and the hereafter requires sacrifice and restraint. They subdue their lower desires, knowing that true satisfaction is not found in wealth, status, or fame, but in spiritual fulfillment. This reality is evident when observing those who appear to possess every worldly advantage, yet remain restless and discontent. Their abundance has not granted them tranquility, because peace of the heart is found only in submission to Allah, the Exalted. Thus, the one who sincerely seeks peace recognizes that real success lies not in compelling others or chasing worldly pleasures, but in fulfilling their duty, to follow the truth themselves, to share it with compassion, and to entrust the outcome to Allah the Exalted, who guides whom He wills with perfect wisdom. This perspective transforms the caller's role from anxious control to serene trust, ensuring their efforts remain pure, their patience firm, and their hope anchored in divine mercy and justice. In this way, the caller becomes a living example of faith, embodying the principle that guidance is a gift from Allah the Exalted, and that humanity's task is to deliver the message faithfully, leaving hearts to be guided by Him alone. As mentioned earlier, the leaders of the non-Muslims throughout the generations employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam, driven by fear of losing their leadership and social influence. One such method was to connect divine guidance to baseless superstitious beliefs, thereby frightening ignorant people from listening and accepting the truth. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 18.
They said, Indeed we consider you a bad omen.
This statement reflects a recurring tactic of those opposed to divine guidance. Instead of engaging with the message rationally, they attempted to discredit it by associating it with misfortune. In reality, the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were sent as sources of mercy, guidance, and blessings. Any hardship that befell a community was not due to the presence of the messengers, but rather the result of the people's own arrogance, disobedience, and misuse of blessings. By labeling divine guidance as a bad omen, the leaders exploited the ignorance of their followers, manipulating their fears to maintain control. Superstitions thrive where knowledge and reflection are absent, and these leaders deliberately used such baseless claims to prevent people from listening to the truth. Their tactic was not grounded in evidence but in fear, designed to preserve their worldly status. This pattern continues across time. Whenever truth threatens entrenched power or exposes injustice, those who benefit from corruption often attempt to discredit it through fear, superstition, or false narratives. Yet the reality remains unchanged. Guidance from Allah the Exalted is never a source of misfortune. Misfortune arises only when people reject it, misuse their blessings, and persist in arrogance. Generally speaking, it is vital to avoid baseless superstitious beliefs and instead adopt a way of life grounded in knowledge and evidence, both in religious and worldly matters, something which Islam consistently calls people towards. When one fails to do this, particularly in religious matters, and instead embraces unfounded superstitions, they often turn to uneducated individuals for solutions. Such people only worsen the situation, causing a person to adopt an illness far more destructive than their initial problem, namely paranoia. These individuals convince a person that their difficulties are caused by supernatural creatures, such as jinns, or by black magic allegedly used against them. While Islam acknowledges the existence of jinns, it is very rare for them to interfere in worldly matters. Yet such claims lead a person into severe paranoia, making them superstitious over trivial issues and suspicious even of their friends and relatives. This inevitably breeds enmity and fractures relationships, undermining the unity and peace that Islam seeks to establish. The remedy lies in strengthening faith through gaining and acting upon Islamic knowledge. This prevents a person from turning to foolish individuals who cannot even resolve their own problems, let alone those of others. Strong faith shields a person from paranoia, as they learn to rely fully on Allah the Exalted. Such reliance instills the understanding that even if the entire creation desired to harm them, they could not do so unless Allah the Exalted permitted it. Likewise, the entire creation could not benefit them unless Allah the Exalted willed it. Every case and situation unfolds only according to a set and unchangeable plan, destiny. This principle has been advised throughout Islamic teachings, including the far-reaching hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2516, which teaches reliance upon Allah the Exalted and recognition that all outcomes are subject to His will. Thus, the person who strengthens their faith through knowledge and obedience is protected from paranoia, superstition, and fractured relationships, and instead attains peace of mind and balance in both worlds. The opposition against divine guidance often begins with criticism, but when people remain firm in their intention to obey Allah the Exalted, it quickly escalates into threats and intimidation. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 18.
If you do not desist, we will surely stone you, and there will surely touch you from us a painful punishment.
This verse illustrates how those who reject divine guidance often resort to hostility when their arguments fail. What begins as verbal criticism soon transforms into threats of violence and coercion, as the disbelievers attempt to silence the truth and intimidate those who uphold it. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 19.
They said, "Your omen is with yourselves. Is it because you were reminded of the truth? Rather, you are a transgressing people."
A modern manifestation of this same pattern can be seen when governments and powerful institutions, whose practices are criticized by Islamic teachings, impose restrictions on Muslims and their ability to practice Islam freely. One example is the regulation of dress, where individuals are pressured or legally constrained from wearing attire that reflects their faith. Such measures mirror the historical tactics of intimidation, aiming to discourage obedience to Allah the Exalted by instilling fear of worldly consequences. Yet, just as the holy prophets, peace be upon them, remain steadfast in the face of threats, people are reminded that true peace and success lie in obedience to Allah the Exalted regardless of opposition. The threats of worldly powers are temporary, while the reward of steadfastness is eternal. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 20.
And there came from the farthest end of the city a man running. He said, O my people, follow the messengers.
Despite being opposed by his people, this man not only remained firm in accepting and acting upon faith, but also demonstrated great sincerity by encouraging his people to abandon their worldly desires for the sake of right guidance. He could have concealed his faith out of fear of harm and kept silent, yet the light of faith does not remain hidden. When nurtured through divine teachings, it naturally radiates outward. When a person learns and acts upon divine teachings, they adopt the noble characteristics described therein, such as generosity, patience, and mercy, and they avoid the destructive traits warned against, such as greed, envy, and selfishness. As a result, they become a source of guidance both passively, through their character, and actively, through their words and actions. Their sincerity compels them to invite others towards truth, just as this man did, despite the immense danger he faced. This example demonstrates that true faith is not confined to the heart alone, but manifests outwardly in conduct and concern for others. It shows that sincerity in faith transforms a person into a beacon of guidance, willing to sacrifice personal safety for the benefit of their community. It is a reminder that steadfastness, sincerity, and the courage to share divine guidance are marks of genuine faith, and that such qualities lead to eternal reward with Allah, the Exalted. The man reminded his people of the sincerity possessed by the holy prophets, peace be upon them, who never asked for anything in return for the divine guidance they were offering. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 21.
Follow those who do not ask of you any payment.
This verse highlights the purity of the prophetic mission. Unlike worldly systems of life, which always demand something from others, whether wealth, attention, or even their freedom to think independently, Islam does not burden people with such demands. Allah, the Exalted, requires nothing from His creation for the guidance He has provided. Every command, prohibition, and piece of advice in the Holy Quran is designed solely for the benefit of humanity, even if its wisdom is not immediately apparent. Just as a patient may not fully appreciate the treatment plan prescribed by a doctor, yet it is for their well-being, so too the divine commands are for the health of the soul and the success of both the individual and society. The sincerity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, just like the holy prophets before him, peace be upon them, was undeniable. His life was a testimony of truthfulness, his character a model of integrity, and his mission free from any worldly motive. He sought no payment, no recognition, and no personal gain. His only concern was the salvation of his people. He called them to obey Allah, the Exalted, and to use the blessings they had been granted in ways pleasing to Him. By following divine guidance, they would achieve peace of mind in both worlds, attaining balance in their mental and physical state, placing everything and everyone in their rightful position, and preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. This reality was evident to the non-Muslims of Mecca, and to those who came after them. They could not reasonably deny his sincerity, yet many persisted in disobedience. The reason was not ignorance of the truth, but the contradiction between divine obedience and worldly desires. Submission to Allah, the Exalted, requires restraint, humility, and discipline, qualities that many were unwilling to embrace. Thus, despite recognizing the truthfulness of Islam, they chose to reject it, just like the many people after them. The man reminded his people that unlike many other influences and leaders, the holy prophets, peace be upon them, strictly and practically adhered to the same guidance they were offering to their people. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 21.
And they are committed to right guidance.
This verse highlights the importance of leading by example, for it is the most effective way to encourage others towards right guidance, particularly one's children. Leading by example requires learning and acting upon the teachings of Islam, so that others recognize its truthfulness through both actions and speech. Only then can people teach the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to the next generation in a way that allows them to understand Islam through evidence rather than blind imitation. This ensures they remain firm upon the teachings of Islam throughout their lives. It is regrettable that many parents are eager to provide their children with worldly knowledge that leads to worldly success, yet neglect their religious education and instead delegate it entirely to others. While encouraging the pursuit of worldly knowledge is praiseworthy, it must not come at the expense of religious education. Sending children to mosques merely to learn how to recite the Holy Quran without understanding its meaning is insufficient. A teenager must accept Islam based on evidence, not blind imitation. Otherwise they risk drifting away from Islam as they grow older, perceiving it as a cultural identity rather than a divine way of life. When one accepts Islam based on evidence, they understand that it is a comprehensive way of life, to be applied in every situation and in the use of every blessing granted by Allah the Exalted. This is only possible when elders within the family teach their children the clear proofs and evidences of Islam's truthfulness. And this is only possible when those elders, such as parents, lead by example, by learning and acting upon Islamic teachings themselves. In this way, they embody the sincerity of the holy prophets, peace be upon them, and ensure that the next generation inherits not only knowledge but conviction, discipline, and faith. The man then reminded his people indirectly, rather than commanding them, that it is only just and appropriate to obey Allah, the Exalted, as He alone created and sustains them. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 22.
And why should I not worship He who created me?
This verse highlights the rational foundation of worship and obedience. It is not presented as a command, but as a question that appeals to reason and fairness. The man's words show that worship is not merely an obligation imposed externally, but a natural response to recognizing the reality of creation. By framing his reminder in this way, he invited his people to reflect deeply on their own existence and the one who brought them into being. His approach demonstrates that true guidance often begins with gentle reasoning, encouraging people to arrive at the truth themselves rather than feeling forced into it. When a person owns an object, it is considered correct and normal for them to use it however they please. Ownership naturally entails authority, and no one disputes the right of an owner to decide the fate of what belongs to them. This analogy is simple yet profound, as it reflects a universal principle that everyone understands. Just as people respect human ownership in worldly matters, they should recognize the absolute ownership of Allah, the Exalted, over all creation. The man's reminder therefore dismantles any excuse for disobedience, showing that it is inconsistent to acknowledge human ownership yet deny divine ownership, which is far greater and more complete. In the same way, Allah, the Exalted, created, owns and sustains everything within the universe, including people themselves. His ownership is not partial or temporary, but absolute and eternal. He provides sustenance, maintains balance in the universe, and grants life and death according to His will. Therefore, He alone decides what should occur within the universe and what should not. To deny His authority is to deny the very reality of existence, for everything depends upon Him. Recognizing this truth leads naturally to obedience, as it is only fair and reasonable to submit to the one who holds complete ownership and control. It follows that it is only fair and reasonable for a person to obey Allah, the Exalted, as He alone possesses absolute ownership of the entire universe, including them. His commands are not arbitrary, but rooted in wisdom, justice, and mercy. Every instruction in the Holy Quran is designed for the benefit of humanity, guiding them towards balance, peace, and success. To disobey Him is to reject the rightful authority of the Creator, and to place oneself in conflict with the order of creation. To obey Him, however, is to acknowledge His rightful authority and to align oneself with the harmony of the universe. This indirect reminder from the man demonstrates the gentleness of true guidance. Rather than forcing or commanding, he appealed to reason and fairness, showing that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is the natural and just response to His role as creator and sustainer. The man further reminds his people that Allah, the Exalted, alone controls life and death, and that He has granted them countless blessings. Therefore, they will inevitably be held accountable by Him, a logical conclusion when one reflects with an open mind. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 22.
And to whom you will be returned.
This reminder establishes the reality that accountability is inseparable from the blessings of life. If Allah, the Exalted, is the one who created, sustains, and ultimately determines the end of every life, then it follows naturally that he alone has the right to hold people accountable for how they use the blessings entrusted to them. To deny this accountability is to deny the very order of existence, for creation without return would be purposeless. The reality is that without Judgment Day and the hereafter, life in this world would be stripped of its ultimate meaning and purpose. Everything within this worldly existence is temporary and imperfect. No matter what a person acquires, whether wealth, power, knowledge, or companionship, they will inevitably be separated from it, either through the slow passage of time or through the certainty of death. If existence were confined only to this fleeting world, then all human striving would be reduced to chasing after what will eventually vanish, leaving behind nothing of lasting value. It is the certainty of Judgment Day and the hereafter that elevates life beyond this cycle of temporary gains and inevitable losses. These truths provide a higher, perfect, and permanent goal for which to aspire. They transform every action, sacrifice, and moment of patience into something of eternal significance. Without them, existence would be no more than a pursuit of fleeting pleasures ending in emptiness. With them, however, life becomes a purposeful journey, where every trial is a test, every blessing is a trust, and every effort is an investment in everlasting success. The promise of accountability ensures that justice will ultimately prevail, that no good deed will be lost, and that no injustice will go unanswered. It reassures the heart that struggles are not in vain, but are stepping stones toward eternal reward. In this way, the belief in Judgment Day and the hereafter gives meaning to suffering, direction to effort, and permanence to values such as truth, patience, and compassion. Thus, the hereafter is not merely an extension of life, it is the very foundation that gives this life coherence and purpose. Without it, existence would be aimless. With it, every moment becomes an opportunity to strive for what is eternal. This reminder from the man is timeless, urging every person to reflect on their blessings, their mortality, and their inevitable return to Allah, the Exalted, so that they may prepare for accountability with sincerity and wisdom. The man warns his people to avoid obeying others in the disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, as they cannot aid them against his decrees and power in the least. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 23.
Should I take other than him false deities while, if the Most Merciful intends for me some adversity, their intercession will not avail me at all, nor can they save me.
This verse dismantles the false notion that intermediaries or idols can protect a person from divine decree. It highlights the futility of relying on others, whether deities, spiritual figures, or worldly powers, when Allah, the Exalted, alone controls life, death, and destiny. Historically, many non-Muslims who acknowledged Allah, the Exalted, nonetheless ascribed human shortcomings to him, imagining him as a worldly monarch who required aides to manage his dominion. Just as a king appoints governors to oversee his realm, they assumed Allah, the Exalted, delegated authority to angels or other beings. Consequently, they began worshipping these entities, hoping to gain favor and intercession. This misconception has, unfortunately, also been embraced by some Muslims, who invest time, energy, and resources in venerating spiritual individuals believed to have a unique connection to Allah, the Exalted. They treat such figures as gatekeepers, imagining that pleasing them through gifts or exaggerated displays of respect will secure divine favor. This belief fundamentally contradicts Islamic teachings. The holy prophets, peace be upon them, did not function as gatekeepers. They did not solicit gifts or personal gain, nor did they claim exclusive access to Allah, the Exalted. Instead, they illuminated the path of obedience, showing people how to attain His pleasure directly through worship, sincerity, and righteous deeds. The role of a holy prophet, peace be upon them, was to guide, not to stand between humanity and their Creator. The Holy Quran makes this point abundantly clear. For example, chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 186.
And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me.
And chapter 40 Ghafir, verse 60.
And your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you.
Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 255.
Who is it that can intercede with him except by his permission?
It is true that intercession will occur on the Day of Judgment, but it must never be treated lightly or mocked. To do so risks being deprived of this mercy. Disparaging intercession often stems from complacency, where a person neglects to use their blessings in accordance with Islamic principles, yet still expects salvation through others. Such negligence may even result in the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, testifying against them. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 30.
And the Messenger has said, O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as a thing abandoned.
This verse pertains specifically to Muslims, as they are the sole community that has acknowledged and embraced the Holy Quran. In contrast, non-Muslims, having not accepted its guidance, cannot be described as abandoning it. The warning is therefore directed at those who profess faith, yet neglect the very scripture that defines their identity. The outcome of any Muslim against whom the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, bears witness on the Day of Judgment is clear and severe, for such testimony would confirm their betrayal of divine trust. Even in cases where intercession is granted, negligence may not prevent entry into hell. At most, it may lessen the intensity or duration of the punishment. This reality underscores the gravity of complacency. It must be clearly understood that even the briefest experience of hell is profoundly unbearable, far beyond human endurance. The thought of relying solely on intercession without striving sincerely in this world is therefore a dangerous delusion. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 24.
Indeed, I would then be in manifest error.
Genuine hope in intercession must be accompanied by earnest effort, namely, the active and sincere use of the blessings one has been granted in a manner that aligns with the guidance of the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Intercession is a mercy, not a license for negligence. It is reserved for those who strive, repent and remain conscious of their accountability. Only then should one hope for intercession on the Day of Judgment, with the understanding that Allah, the Exalted, alone authorizes it, and that His justice and mercy are perfectly balanced. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 23.
Should I take other than Him false deities while, if the Most Merciful intends for me some adversity, their intercession will not avail me at all, nor can they save me.
The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, emphasized the limitless and supreme authority of Allah, the Exalted, in a hadith recorded in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 2516. This narration makes clear that no part of creation can benefit an individual unless Allah, the Exalted, wills it, and likewise, no harm can reach a person unless He permits it. This profound truth establishes that everything which occurs in the universe, whether great or small, unfolds only by His decree. It is a reminder that human beings, despite their efforts, remain entirely dependent upon the will of Allah, the Exalted, and that His authority encompasses every aspect of existence. This teaching does not mean that people should abandon practical means, such as medicine, food, or shelter. Rather, it clarifies that while one may employ these means, as they are part of the system established by Allah, the Exalted, the final outcome rests entirely with Him. For example, many who take medicine recover from their illness, while others do not, despite following the same treatment. This demonstrates that another decisive factor governs the result, the will of Allah, the Exalted. He alone determines whether the means will succeed or fail, reminding humanity that reliance must be placed upon Him above all else. Chapter 9 at Tawbah, verse 51.
Say, never will we be struck except by what Allah has decreed for us.
A person who truly understands this principle realizes that events beyond their control were inevitable, and opportunities that slipped away could never have been seized. Losses, disappointments, and unexpected outcomes are not accidents, but part of a divine plan. Whatever the result, even if it contradicts their personal wishes, they must remain patient and trust that Allah, the Exalted, has chosen what is ultimately best for them, even if the wisdom behind it is hidden. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
When this truth is firmly grasped, a person ceases to depend on creation, recognizing that it cannot independently harm or benefit them. Instead, they turn to Allah, the Exalted, for help and protection, through sincere obedience, fulfilling His commands, avoiding His prohibitions, and meeting destiny with patience in accordance with the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This nurtures reliance upon Allah the Exalted, and instills fear of none but Him, knowing that creation cannot affect them without His permission. Acknowledging that everything in life and the universe originates from Allah the Exalted, is part of truly understanding His oneness. This belief transcends a superficial declaration that none is worthy of worship except Him. When it is deeply rooted in the heart, a person relies solely on Allah the Exalted, knowing He alone can assist them. They submit to Him in every aspect of their life, recognizing that obedience is not a burden but the rightful acknowledgement of His authority. In reality, obedience to another is usually motivated by the hope of gaining benefit or avoiding harm. Since only Allah the Exalted can grant benefit or protection, He alone deserves obedience and worship. To obey someone in preference to Allah the Exalted implies a belief that they can provide benefit or shield from harm, which reveals weakness in faith. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 24.
Indeed, I would then be in manifest error.
The origin of all events lies with Allah the Exalted, thus people must devote their obedience exclusively to Him, the sovereign of all outcomes. This understanding transforms the way a person views life. They no longer see success or failure as random, nor do they attribute ultimate power to worldly figures or material means. Instead, they see every blessing as a trust, every trial as a test, and every outcome as part of a greater plan. Such a perspective brings peace to the heart, strength to endure hardship, and clarity in the face of uncertainty. It anchors the soul in reliance upon Allah, the Exalted, and ensures that obedience to Him remains the guiding principle of life. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 107.
And if Allah should touch you with adversity, there is no remover of it except Him, and if He intends for you good, then there is no repeller of His bounty.
After declaring his belief in Allah, the Exalted, in a manner that encouraged his people to reflect upon His lordship, the man further urged them not to allow their worldly desires to dominate their hearts to such an extent that they failed to listen correctly to his advice. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 25.
Indeed, I have believed in your Lord, so listen to me.
This verse highlights the importance of attentiveness and receptivity to truth. When a person becomes consumed by worldly desires, their ability to listen and reflect is compromised. They lose control over their actions and are driven solely by the need to satisfy those desires, often ignoring the negative consequences that follow. This condition can be compared to the plight of a drug addict. Addiction compels them to seek drugs regardless of the harm it causes. Their judgment becomes clouded, and they may commit wrongful acts, such as theft, without recognizing the destructive impact of their behavior. In the same way, excessive worldly desires, such as the relentless pursuit of wealth, status, or pleasure, can morph into addictions that govern a person's actions. They become enslaved to their desires, sacrificing morality, relationships, and health in the process. Therefore, it is essential to learn how to manage one's desires and pursue only lawful ones in a balanced manner. Islam teaches moderation, reminding people that desires are not inherently evil, but must be controlled and directed within the boundaries set by Allah, the Exalted. When desires are left unchecked, they inevitably lead to immoral actions, fractured relationships, and health problems, both mental and physical. But when desires are managed with discipline and guided by divine teachings, they become a source of strength, enabling a person to live with balance, peace, and purpose. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 25.
Indeed, I have believed in your Lord, so listen to me.
Generally speaking, this verse also serves as a reminder that people must listen correctly to knowledge, particularly Islamic teachings, if they wish to benefit from it. Listening correctly is not a passive act. It requires attentiveness, reflection, and sincerity. A person must carefully listen to Islamic knowledge, connect what they hear to their own past experiences, evaluate how they can implement the teachings in the future, and then sincerely strive to do so. Only through this process does knowledge transform into guidance that shapes character and behavior. Merely listening to Islamic knowledge without these steps will not bring about positive change. Knowledge that remains theoretical, unconnected to life, and unimplemented in practice is like medicine left unused. It may contain the cure, but it cannot heal unless taken. This explains why many Muslims do not experience meaningful transformation, even though they have unprecedented access to Islamic knowledge through books, lectures, and digital platforms. The abundance of information has not translated into reform, because the essential steps of listening carefully, reflecting deeply, and striving sincerely are often neglected. Thus, the reminder is timeless. Islamic knowledge is not meant to be consumed superficially, but to be absorbed, reflected upon, and lived. When approached in this way, it becomes a source of light that guides every aspect of life. When neglected, however, it remains unused, leaving behavior unchanged despite the availability of resources. It is clear from these verses that the man's people were ultimately destroyed, which demonstrates that they persisted in rejecting and opposing divine guidance. Their opposition was so intense that they killed the very man who was inviting them to follow the holy prophets, peace be upon them. Yet, despite their cruelty, Allah, the Exalted, honored him by admitting him into paradise. His steadfastness and sincerity were rewarded with forgiveness and eternal honor. This shows that even when the world rejects and harms those who call to truth, Allah, the Exalted, elevates them and grants them peace of mind in both worlds, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 26 to 27.
It was said, "Enter paradise." He said, "I wish my people could know of how my Lord has forgiven me and placed me among the honored."
When he entered paradise, his concern for his people did not vanish, nor did his compassion diminish simply because they had rejected him and even caused his death. Instead, he expressed a heartfelt wish that they could know of the blessings he had received, forgiveness and honor from Allah, the Exalted. This profound statement reveals the depth of his sincerity and the purity of his heart. His desire was not for revenge, nor for vindication, but for his people to share in the mercy and reward that he himself had attained. Even though they had killed him, he did not respond with hatred or vengeance. Rather, he longed for them to understand the reward of faith and obedience, so that they too might be saved from destruction. His attitude demonstrates the true spirit of guidance, concern for others even in the face of hostility, and love for their salvation even when they had shown him cruelty. This example teaches Muslims that their role is not to hate non-Muslims, but to encourage them towards right guidance with love and mercy. The responsibility of a Muslim is to invite others gently and sincerely, regardless of whether they accept or reject the message. Hatred must be directed towards sins, for sins are inherently evil and destructive, but people themselves must be approached with compassion. Every person has the capacity to change, to repent and to reform. Therefore, they should not be hated, but rather encouraged with patience and care, in the hope that they will one day accept the truth. This principle ensures that da'wah remains an act of mercy, not hostility, and that the caller reflects the divine compassion that underpins the message of Islam. The distinction between hating sins and loving people is crucial. To confuse the two leads to harshness, division, and unnecessary enmity, whereas Islam calls for mercy, sincerity, and wisdom in guiding others. Sins must always be opposed, for they corrupt the soul and society, but people must always be approached with gentleness, for they are capable of transformation. Just as the man in these verses exemplified, the concern of a person of faith should always be for the salvation of others, regardless of their opposition. By embodying this principle, Muslims fulfill their role as conveyors of divine guidance, reflecting the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, and the example of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who consistently showed compassion even to those who opposed him. This lesson is timeless and applies to every generation. In every age, those who call to truth face rejection, criticism, and even hostility. Yet their response must remain rooted in sincerity, mercy, and patience. Hatred of sin must never become hatred of people. Instead, the believer must strive to guide others with gentleness, knowing that every person has the potential to change. This requires perseverance, humility, and a heart that longs for the salvation of others more than for personal comfort. In this way, they mirror the example of the man in these verses, whose love for his people endured even after his death, and whose sincerity was rewarded with paradise. His story is a reminder that true guidance is not measured by immediate acceptance, but by the purity of intention, the steadfastness of effort, and the mercy shown to others, even in the face of rejection. Allah, the Exalted, then invites people to reflect on the end of this nation who persisted in opposing His holy prophets, peace be upon them, and His guidance. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 28 to 31.
And we did not send down upon his people after him any soldiers from the heaven, nor would we have done so. It was not but one shout, and immediately they were extinguished. How regretful for the servants! There did not come to them any messenger, except that they used to ridicule him. Have they not considered how many generations we destroyed before them, that they to them will not return?
These verses serve as a powerful reminder of the consequences of arrogance and heedlessness. The destruction of the man's people did not require armies from the heavens. Rather, it was accomplished by a single command from Allah, the Exalted. This illustrates His absolute power and the futility of resisting His decree. Their end was sudden and complete, extinguishing their worldly pursuits and leaving behind only regret. The verses also highlight the importance of reflection. Allah, the Exalted, asks people to consider how many generations before them were destroyed for similar arrogance and disobedience. This call to reflection is not merely historical. It is a timeless lesson urging every generation to learn from the past. Those who ignore these lessons fall into the same cycle of heedlessness, while those who reflect gain wisdom, humility, and direction. Such reflection guards against a self-absorbed way of life, where one's attention is confined only to personal circumstances, while ignoring the greater realities surrounding them. A narrow outlook blinds the heart from recognizing the wisdom that can be drawn from history, personal trials, and the experiences of others. Reflecting upon these lessons is one of the surest means of refining character, avoiding repeated mistakes, and finding lasting inner peace. It helps a person achieve balance, mentally, physically, and spiritually, by correctly placing everything and everyone within their life according to divine guidance. For example, observing how the wealthy and renowned misuse the blessings they have been granted, only to be overtaken by anxiety, depression, addiction, or even suicide despite their comforts, teaches that genuine tranquility cannot be purchased through wealth or secured by unchecked desires. Similarly, witnessing someone struggle with illness should stir gratitude for one's own health and motivate its proper use before it slips away. These reflections transform ordinary observations into profound lessons, reminding people of the fragility of life and the importance of using blessings correctly. Islam therefore urges people to remain mindful and reflective, to look beyond the narrow lens of their own situation, and to extract wisdom from the world around them. By doing so, they avoid the mistakes of past nations, strengthen their character, and prepare themselves for accountability before Allah, the Exalted. Reflection becomes not only a source of wisdom, but also a shield against arrogance, a guide toward gratitude, and a path to inner peace. Allah, the Exalted, encouraged further reflection on how people will be brought before Him for their final accountability. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 32.
And indeed, all of them will yet be brought present before us.
This verse is a solemn reminder that no one can escape accountability. Every individual, regardless of their status, wealth, or worldly achievements, will stand before Allah, the Exalted, to answer for how they used the blessings entrusted to them. The certainty of this gathering should inspire humility, vigilance, and preparation, for it is the ultimate reality that gives meaning to life and exposes the futility of arrogance and heedlessness. It is therefore vital to avoid following in the footsteps of those who persisted in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, for such behavior inevitably leads to the misuse of blessings. In this world, their attitude prevents them from achieving a balanced mental and physical state. They misplace everything and everyone within their life, failing to recognize the rightful purpose of relationships, wealth, and opportunities. As a result, their family, friends, career, and possessions, things meant to be sources of comfort, become sources of stress and turmoil. When people persist in disobedience, they often misdirect blame. Instead of recognizing their own misuse of blessings, they accuse others, such as their spouse or family, of being the cause of their stress. This misplaced blame leads them to cut good people out of their lives, further isolating themselves and worsening their condition. Such behavior only increases their vulnerability to mental disorders, plunging them into depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. This outcome is evident when one observes those who persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, such as the rich and famous. Despite enjoying worldly luxuries, many are overtaken by anxiety, emptiness, and destructive habits. Their wealth and fame cannot shield them from the consequences of ignoring divine guidance. Their lives serve as a visible warning that worldly success without obedience to Allah, the Exalted, leads to imbalance and despair. And as their attitude prevented them from preparing for accountability on Judgment Day, their punishment in the hereafter will be far worse. The suffering they experience in this world is but a shadow of the torment awaiting those who persist in disobedience without repentance. The verse therefore calls upon every person to reflect, reform, and prepare for the inevitable moment when they will be brought before Allah, the Exalted, to answer for their deeds. Even though Allah, the Exalted, judges people on an individual level, nonetheless, this verse warns of the greater tragedy of mankind, that as a whole, they are a creation which has failed to fulfill its purpose of obeying Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 30.
How regretful for the servants! There did not come to them any messenger, except that they used to ridicule him.
This verse is not merely a record of past events. It is a lamentation over the repeated failure of humanity to respond correctly to divine guidance. Allah, the Exalted, has sent messengers to every nation, each bearing clear signs, wisdom, and mercy. These messengers were not ordinary men, but chosen individuals entrusted with the most noble responsibility, to convey the words of Allah, the Exalted, and to guide people towards truth and salvation. Yet, the majority of people chose to ridicule them, rather than listen sincerely. Such ridicule was not harmless mockery. It was in fact a rejection of truth, a dismissal of mercy, and a refusal to acknowledge the authority of the Creator. The tragedy lies in the fact that guidance was always accessible, but arrogance, pride, and heedlessness prevented people from benefiting from it. This pattern of rejection demonstrates the weakness of human nature when dominated by desires and worldly distractions, and it highlights the immense loss suffered by those who turn away from the mercy of Allah, the Exalted. It is evident that most of mankind will not believe in Allah, the Exalted, correctly, and as a result, they will fail in both worlds to fulfill the very purpose of their creation. The purpose of human existence is not simply to live, achieve, and enjoy worldly comforts, but to worship Allah, the Exalted, and to live in obedience to Him. Worship here is not limited to ritual acts, but encompasses every aspect of life, speech, conduct, relationships, and the use of blessings. When this purpose is neglected, every worldly achievement loses its true meaning. The failure of mankind is therefore not measured by a lack of progress or advancement, but by their refusal to acknowledge and obey their Creator. This failure results in loss in both realms, in this life, through imbalance, misguidance, and inner turmoil, and in the hereafter, through punishment and regret. The verse therefore serves as a stark reminder that success is not defined by worldly standards, but by obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Despite the immense advancements of mankind over the generations, achievements in science, technology, medicine, and worldly progress, these are all overshadowed by the reality of their disbelief and disobedience of their Creator and Sustainer. Humanity has reached the moon, split the atom, and built vast empires. Yet these accomplishments cannot erase the fact that many have turned away from the one who granted them intellect and ability. Their progress may appear impressive in worldly terms, but it is hollow when divorced from faith. The verse reminds us that worldly success without obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is ultimately meaningless, for it does not fulfill the true purpose of creation. The tragedy of mankind is that they celebrate their achievements while ignoring the very source of their ability, thereby turning blessings into a means of arrogance rather than gratitude. Reflecting on this sad truth helps one to realign their intentions, speech, and actions. It awakens the heart to the danger of following the majority blindly, for the majority often persist in disobedience. The believer is called to sincerity, humility, and obedience, so that they may succeed in both worlds. This reflection encourages a person to examine their life carefully. Are they using their blessings correctly? Are they aligning their actions with divine guidance? Are they preparing for accountability? By asking these questions, One avoids joining the majority, who ridicule guidance and persist in disobedience. Reflection transforms knowledge into wisdom, and wisdom into action, ensuring that faith is not merely a claim but a lived reality. Those who ignore this lesson suffer not only in the hereafter, but also in this world. Their disobedience leads to imbalance in their mental and physical state. They misplace everything and everyone within their life, turning blessings into burdens and relationships into sources of stress. Family becomes a source of conflict, wealth becomes a source of anxiety, and health becomes neglected. This is the natural consequence of failing to live according to divine guidance. By contrast, those who reflect and realign their lives find balance, peace, and purpose. They use their blessings correctly. They place people and possessions in their rightful place, and they prepare themselves for accountability before Allah, the Exalted. In this way, they secure tranquility in this world, and everlasting success in the hereafter. Their lives become testimonies of gratitude, their actions become shields against regret, and their hearts become anchored in the certainty that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is the only path to true success. After recounting an event from the past which highlights the importance of obeying Him, Allah, the Exalted, turns attention to the signs embedded within creation itself, signs that unmistakably indicate His oneness and establish that He alone deserves obedience. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 33.
And a sign for them is the dead earth. We have brought it to life.
This verse directs the human mind to reflect upon the natural cycle of life and death that occurs within the earth. The barren land, lifeless and unproductive, is revived by the rain sent down by Allah, the Exalted. This transformation is not only a physical phenomenon, but also a spiritual sign, reminding people that the one who revives the earth is also capable of reviving hearts and resurrecting the dead. The contrast between lifeless soil and flourishing vegetation is a visible proof of divine power, urging humanity to acknowledge that such processes are not random, but carefully governed by the Creator. Through the rain, Allah, the Exalted, revives barren land, bringing forth crops and vegetation. It is often observed that similar plots of land may receive rain, yet one will flourish while the other remains barren. This phenomenon demonstrates that the power of life is not random, nor is it within human control. It lies solely with Allah, the Exalted. Despite the remarkable agricultural advancements achieved by mankind, people remain incapable of granting life to a lifeless seed. They may cultivate, irrigate, and engineer methods of farming, but the spark of life itself is beyond their reach. The ability to initiate life belongs exclusively to Allah, the Exalted, who governs all outcomes and reminds humanity of their dependence upon Him. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 33 to 34.
And brought forth from it grain, and from it they eat. And we placed therein gardens of palm trees and grapevines.
Here Allah, the Exalted, draws attention to the sustenance that people consume daily. Grain, fruits, and gardens are not merely natural products, but deliberate signs of divine mercy. The variety of crops, their taste, their nutritional value, and their abundance all point to the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. These provisions are reminders that human beings are constantly nourished by His generosity, and that every meal they eat is a gift from Him. The verse highlights that sustenance is not guaranteed by human effort alone, but is ultimately dependent upon divine will. Furthermore, the stability of the earth itself is a sign of divine design. As the planet spins at immense speed, mountains have been created as pegs to stabilize it, thereby allowing life to flourish upon it. This stabilizing role is essential, for without it the earth would not be suitable for habitation. Beyond their stabilizing function, mountains serve as reservoirs, retaining and purifying acidic rain so that it becomes suitable for farming, drinking, and sustaining animals. They act as natural filters, ensuring that water is preserved in a form beneficial to life. Their presence is a constant reminder, a divine wisdom, in structuring the earth to sustain humanity. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 34.
And caused to burst forth therefrom some springs.
These springs are manifestations of divine mercy, supplying fresh water essential for life. Rivers and streams flowing from mountains provide a continuous source of nourishment for people, animals, and crops. This purified water is distinct from the salty water found in seas and oceans. The separation of fresh and salt water is itself a sign of divine wisdom, for salty seas are necessary to prevent contamination from the countless corpses and waste within them. If the two waters were to mix without measure, life on earth would be detrimentally affected. The balance between fresh and salt water is therefore a deliberate act of divine governance, ensuring the continuity of life and reminding humanity of their dependence upon Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 35 to 36.
That they may eat of his fruit. And their hands have not produced it, so will they not be grateful? Glorified is he who created all different kinds, from what the earth grows and from themselves and from that which they do not know.
A person who provides for another, even in part, such as offering them shelter or meeting some of their needs, is naturally deserving of gratitude. If this is the case with human beings, then it follows with greater certainty that Allah, the Exalted, who has granted every blessing in the universe, is most worthy of gratitude. To show gratitude to Him is not simply a matter of words. It is a comprehensive attitude expressed through intention, speech, and action. Gratitude in intention means that a person acts only to please Allah, the Exalted. If their deeds are motivated by worldly recognition, praise, or gain, they will not receive reward from Him. This principle is clearly warned in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154. A sign of a pure intention is that one does not expect appreciation or compensation from people, but acts solely for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. Gratitude in speech means speaking what is good or remaining silent, avoiding words that are harmful or vain. Gratitude in action means using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in ways that please Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This comprehensive gratitude leads to an increase in blessings, and brings peace of mind in both worlds, through balance in mental and physical states, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within one's life. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
Ownership also provides a clear analogy. When someone owns an object, it is natural and accepted that they may use it however they wish. Allah, the Exalted, created, owns and sustains everything in the universe, including human beings. Therefore, He alone determines what should occur within the universe and what should not. It is only fair and just that people obey Him, since He is the true owner of all things. Another analogy is that of lending. When a person lends something they own to another, it is only fair that the borrower uses the item according to the wishes of its owner. In the same way, Allah, the Exalted, has granted every blessing a person possesses as a loan, not as a permanent gift. Like worldly loans, these blessings must be repaid. The repayment lies in using them in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. By contrast, the blessings of paradise are gifts, not loans. They will be enjoyed freely, without restriction, as a reward for faith and righteous deeds. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 43.
And they will be called, this is paradise which you have been made to inherit for what you used to do.
It is therefore essential not to confuse the blessings of this world, which are loans entrusted to human beings, with the gifts of paradise, which are permanent rewards. Worldly blessings must be used responsibly, in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, while the gifts of paradise will be enjoyed without limit, reflecting the eternal generosity of the Creator. Yet despite the ingratitude of people, who persist in obeying others in His disobedience, Allah, the Exalted, continues to provide for the creation. His mercy and generosity are not withheld even from those who deny Him. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 36.
Glorified is He who created all different kinds, from what the earth grows and from themselves and from that which they do not know.
This verse invites reflection upon the diversity of creation, which itself is a sign of the ultimate power and wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. The countless forms of life, plants, animals, and even aspects of creation still unknown to mankind, are not the result of random chance but deliberate design. Evolution, understood as mutation, is by its nature imperfect and incapable of producing the harmony and balance observed in the natural world. Yet when one observes the countless species, they find that each has been created in a perfectly balanced way, suited to thrive in its environment. This balance testifies to the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted, who governs all creation. For example, the camel is a striking sign of divine design. It has been created to withstand extreme heat and survive long periods without water. Its body stores fat in its hump, its nostrils can close against sand, and its feet are broad to walk upon desert terrain. Every aspect of its design points to suitability for desert life. Chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verse 17.
Then do they not look at the camels, how they are created?
Similarly, the goat demonstrates divine wisdom in its creation. Within its body, impurities are perfectly separated from the milk it produces. Any mixing of the two would render the milk undrinkable. Yet Allah, the Exalted, has designed the process so that pure palatable milk flows from between excretion and blood. Chapter 16 and Al, verse 66.
And indeed for you in grazing livestock is a lesson. We give you drink from what is in their bellies, between excretion and blood, pure milk palatable to drinkers.
Another sign of divine wisdom is the regulation of species through their lifespans and reproductive capacities. Each species has been granted a specific duration of life and a particular rate of reproduction, ensuring balance within creation. For instance, flies live only 3 to 4 weeks but lay up to 500 eggs. If their lifespan were longer, their population would overwhelm other species and disrupt the balance of life. Conversely, creatures with long lifespans, such as elephants or whales, produce only a few offspring, preventing their populations from becoming disproportionate. This moderation ensures that no species dominates to the detriment of others. All of this cannot be accidental, nor can the process of evolution explain such precise balance. The diversity of creation, the suitability of each species to its environment, and the regulation of populations all point to the deliberate design of Allah, the Exalted. These signs call upon mankind to reflect, to recognize His oneness, and to obey Him alone, for He is the Creator, Sustainer, and Owner of all that exists. In verse 36, Allah, the Exalted, draws attention not only to the diversity of creation, but also to the unseen realities and capacities that lie beyond human comprehension. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 36.
And from that which they do not know.
This phrase serves as a reminder that all human discoveries, inventions, and advancements, no matter how impressive, are ultimately extensions of His creative power. People often take pride in their innovations, viewing them as signs of human progress and superiority. Yet the inspiration to invent, the knowledge to design, the understanding to apply, the resources to build, and the ability to execute all originate from Allah, the Exalted. Without His granting of intellect, imagination, and raw materials, no invention could ever come into existence. The verse also points to the vastness of creation that remains hidden from human perception. Despite centuries of exploration and scientific progress, there are countless realities within the universe that remain unknown. This includes not only species, forces, and phenomena yet to be discovered, but also the unseen dimensions of existence that lie entirely beyond human capacity. The reminder is clear: human knowledge is limited, while divine knowledge is infinite. Thus, when people boast of their achievements, whether in technology, medicine, or engineering, they should remember that these are not independent accomplishments but reflections of the creative ability of Allah, the Exalted. True wisdom lies in acknowledging Him as the source of all progress, and showing gratitude by using these advancements in ways that please Him. Inventions should not become a cause of arrogance, but a means of recognizing divine mercy and power. This verse therefore humbles humanity, reminding them that their pride in worldly progress must be tempered with recognition of the Creator. It calls upon people to reflect: every discovery is but a glimpse into the vast ocean of divine knowledge, and every invention is a borrowed spark from the infinite light of Allah, the Exalted. Allah, the Exalted, then draws attention to another perfectly balanced system within the earth which is indispensable for life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 37 to 38.
And a sign for them is the night. We remove from it the light of day, so they are left in darkness. And the sun runs on course toward its stopping point.
These verses highlight the alternation of night and day, a system so precise and consistent that it sustains every aspect of life. The sun's path ensures that the earth receives a balanced measure of light and darkness. This balance is not accidental but deliberate, designed to maximize benefit for creation. The timing of days and nights, along with their seasonal variations, allows human beings to work, rest, and thrive. If days were extended unnaturally, people would suffer fatigue from prolonged hours of activity. If nights were lengthened excessively, there would be insufficient time to earn a livelihood, pursue education, or engage in other valuable pursuits. Conversely, if nights were shortened, people would be deprived of the rest necessary to maintain health and strength. Thus, the alternation of day and night is a mercy, ensuring both productivity and rejuvenation. This balance also extends to agriculture and sustenance. Crops depend upon the alternation of light and darkness for growth. Any disruption in the cycle would harm vegetation, leading to shortages in food and threatening the survival of both humans and animals. The system of day and night is therefore not only a spiritual reminder, but also a practical necessity for life on earth. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 38.
That is the determination of the exalted in might, the knowing.
This statement emphasizes that such balance and precision are not the result of chance, but a divine determination. Allah the Exalted is both mighty, able to establish such systems, and knowing, aware of the needs of His creation. The perfect placement of the sun, its role in sustaining life, and their harmony within the solar system all point unmistakably to the influence of a creator. The moon, too, plays a vital role in maintaining the balance of life on Earth. By reflecting the light of the sun, it provides illumination during the night, guiding travelers across deserts and oceans, journeys that have historically been essential for trade, exploration, and the transport of goods, and which remain significant even today. Its presence ensures that darkness is never absolute, offering comfort and direction to those who move under its light. Beyond illumination, the moon's phases regulate the tides of seas and oceans, sustaining ecological balance. The rise and fall of tides are crucial for marine life, coastal ecosystems, and the renewal of water systems. Any disruption in this delicate rhythm would cause widespread harm to the environment, threatening both human livelihood and the survival of countless species. The moon's role in this system is therefore a manifest sign of divine wisdom, serving both practical and symbolic purposes. Together, the sun and moon also provide humanity with a natural system for measuring time. The alternation of day and night, the phases of the moon, and the movement of the sun allow people to organize their lives, seasons, and years. This system of calculation is not man-made but divinely decreed, reminding humanity that even the passage of time is a sign of divine order. It is through these celestial measures that people are able to structure their worship, their work, and their daily lives. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 39.
And the moon, we have determined for it phases, until it returns appearing like the old date store.
As the entire creation, except for mankind, has fully submitted to the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, it exists in a state of perfect balance and harmony. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 40.
It is not allowable for the sun to reach the moon, nor does the night overtake the day, but each in an orbit is swimming.
This verse highlights the flawless order of the universe. The sun and the moon, though immense in size and power, never collide nor interfere with one another's function. Day and night alternate in perfect sequence, never overlapping nor failing in their appointed times. The planets remain in their orbits, the stars in their courses, and the celestial bodies in their appointed paths, all in submission to the command of Allah, the Exalted. This harmony is not the product of chance, but a divine decree, a reflection of the Creator's wisdom and authority. When one observes the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, and the countless planets that remain in their orbits, the evidence of this balance becomes undeniable. Each element of creation fulfills its purpose without deviation, demonstrating obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This obedience ensures stability, continuity, and harmony throughout the universe. In contrast, mankind often fails to submit to Allah, the Exalted, and therefore does not experience the same harmony. Human beings, when guided by desires and heedlessness, misplace priorities, misuse blessings, and disrupt the balance of their own lives. Unlike the rest of creation, which is in constant obedience, mankind's disobedience leads to imbalance, confusion, and turmoil. Therefore, if one desires to achieve the harmony and balance observed within the universe in their own life, They must follow the example of creation by sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, at all times. This obedience involves correctly using the blessings they have been granted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By doing so, they will achieve a harmonious mental and physical condition, positioning all aspects of their life appropriately and preparing themselves for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Consequently, this conduct will result in tranquility in both worlds. In this life, obedience brings peace of mind, balance and clarity. In the hereafter, it secures eternal success and freedom from regret. Just as the universe thrives in harmony through submission, so too can mankind attain harmony by living in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Another sign highlighted by Allah the Exalted is the water within the oceans and seas, which has been created in such a way that both marine life can thrive within it and heavy ships can sail upon it. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 41 to 42.
And a sign for them is that we carried their lineage in the laden ship, and we created for them from the likes of it that which they ride.
This verse recalls the great mercy of Allah, the Exalted, in enabling human survival through ships, beginning with the Ark of the Holy Prophet Nuh, peace be upon him, and continuing with vessels of every kind that humanity rides upon today. The balance of water's composition is a profound sign of divine wisdom. If its properties were slightly altered, an imbalance would occur. Either marine life could thrive within it, or ships could float upon it, but not both simultaneously. The fact that both are possible at once demonstrates a perfect equilibrium designed by Allah, the Exalted. Even in the modern age, transport by sea remains the most commonly used method for moving goods across the world, showing that this balance continues to underpin human civilization. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 43.
And if we should will, we could drown them. Then no one responding to a cry would there be for them, nor would they be saved.
This verse reminds humanity that their reliance upon the seas is entirely dependent upon divine mercy. Ships may be laden with goods, technology may advance, and trade may flourish, but all of it remains vulnerable to the will of Allah, the Exalted. A single command could overturn this balance, leaving people helpless and without rescue. It is a reminder that security upon the seas is not guaranteed by human effort, but by divine decree. Yet despite the ingratitude of people who persist in disobedience, Allah, the Exalted, continues to maintain this perfectly balanced system. He provides humanity with a source of provision through sea life, fish and other marine resources, and a means of earning provision through tourism, trade and transport. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 44.
Except as a mercy from us and provision for a time.
This verse emphasizes that the continuation of these blessings is purely an act of divine mercy. The seas remain stable, ships continue to sail, and marine life continues to flourish only because Allah the Exalted sustains them. Humanity benefits from these provisions for a time, but they are not permanent. They are temporary opportunities granted by Allah the Exalted to remind people of His generosity and to encourage them to show gratitude and obedience. Taken together, these verses highlight the delicate balance of the oceans and seas as a sign of divine wisdom. They remind humanity that their survival, trade and sustenance are dependent upon Allah, the Exalted, and that gratitude and obedience are the only fitting responses to His mercy. Obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often conflicts with the worldly desires that dominate many people's lives. As a result, they persist in disobedience, misusing the blessings they have been entrusted with. Even when reminded to reflect on their behavior and warned that such disobedience leads to imbalance, disturbing both their mental and physical state and causing them to misplace everything and everyone within their life, they remain heedless. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 45.
But when it is said to them, beware of what is in front of you and what is beyond you.
This warning is a call to consider both the immediate consequences of their actions and the ultimate accountability awaiting them. Yet, despite being told that their disobedience prevents them from preparing adequately for the Day of Judgment, many remain stubborn upon their misguidance. Their hearts are dominated by worldly ambitions and desires, and they ignore the countless examples of those before them who lived in the same way and suffered ruin in both worlds. History is filled with lessons of nations and individuals destroyed by arrogance and heedlessness. But these lessons are disregarded by those who continue to chase fleeting pleasures. The wise response is to avoid such behavior, and instead accept the warnings and guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By learning from the examples of disobedient people, whether from past generations or from the present, one can avoid repeating their mistakes. This requires using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in the correct manner, as outlined in Islamic teachings. Such obedience ensures that a person achieves balance in both mind and body, places everything and everyone in their rightful position, and prepares adequately for accountability before Allah, the Exalted, on the Day of Judgment. This conduct leads to peace and tranquility in both worlds. In this life, it brings harmony, clarity, and stability. In the hereafter, it secures mercy and eternal success. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 45.
Perhaps you will receive mercy.
This final phrase is a reminder that mercy is always within reach for those who heed the warnings, reform their conduct, and live in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Although the signs of Allah, the Exalted, are countless, found both within Islamic teachings and throughout the natural world, many people continue to disregard them. The pull of worldly desires overshadows the call to obedience, leading them to turn away from what is clear and manifest. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 46.
And no sign comes to them from the signs of their Lord, except that they are from it turning away.
This verse reveals a profound truth. Rejection of divine guidance is rarely due to ignorance or lack of evidence. Rather, it stems from deliberate neglect, as people choose to gratify their desires instead of restraining them. When individuals abandon the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and adopt man-made systems, they do so because such systems are rooted in human ambition, self-interest, and indulgence. Unlike divine law, which is founded upon wisdom, justice, and mercy, human-devised codes reflect the inclinations of those who create them. The wealthy and powerful are often the most resistant to divine guidance. They recognize that accepting Islam would require submission to a higher moral framework, one that places limits on their exploitation, indulgence, and misuse of authority. Such submission would expose their injustices and restrict their pursuit of unchecked desires. Out of fear of losing influence and privilege, they not only reject the truth themselves but also encourage others to follow their path, attempting to preserve their worldly status even at the cost of their eternal well-being. This pattern has repeated throughout history. The first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often the elites of society. Their rejection was not based on confusion or lack of clarity, for the signs of Allah, the Exalted, were evident before them. Instead, their opposition arose from arrogance, pride, and the desire to continue living according to their whims. They feared that divine guidance would dismantle their unjust systems and strip them of their privileges. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance is seldom an intellectual dispute about truth or falsehood. It is, at its core, a matter of the heart, a refusal to restrain desires and submit to the authority of the Creator. The signs are clear, the evidence is abundant, yet many turn away because they are unwilling to sacrifice their worldly desires and ambitions for peace of mind in both worlds. An example of this misguided attitude is the greed people show toward the wealth that Allah, the Exalted, has entrusted to them as a loan. Instead of repaying this loan by using it in the correct way, their greed drives them to spend it according to their own desires, and they even go so far as to criticize those who oppose their selfishness. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 47.
And when it is said to them, spend from that which Allah has provided for you, those who disbelieve say to those who believe, should we feed one whom if Allah had willed he would have fed? You are not but in clear error.
This response reflects a deeply flawed mindset. It is foolish to argue that the needy should not be helped because Allah, the Exalted, could have provided for them directly. In reality, Allah, the Exalted, grants worldly blessings such as wealth so that people may use them correctly, by aiding others and thereby earning reward in both worlds. Charity is not simply a social duty, it is a divine opportunity. If Allah, the Exalted, had chosen to provide directly for every person without need, then the chance to gain reward through generosity would not exist. The presence of the needy is itself part of the divine test, allowing people to demonstrate gratitude, compassion, and obedience. Yet greed blinds many from acknowledging this truth. They persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, failing the test of life in this world. Their selfishness leads to imbalance in both mental and physical states. They misplace priorities, misuse relationships, and distort the rightful purpose of wealth and resources. Instead of preparing adequately for their accountability on the day of judgment, they squander their blessings in pursuit of fleeting pleasures. The outcome of such behavior is inevitable: stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds. Even if they enjoy certain worldly luxuries, their inner state remains unsettled, and their hereafter will be marked by regret and punishment. By contrast, those who use the blessings they have been granted as Allah, the Exalted, commands, by aiding others and repaying the loan entrusted to them, secure balance, peace, and reward in both this life and the next, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. The leaders of the disbelievers in Mecca, much like those who came before them, employed various strategies to prevent people from embracing Islam. Their resistance was rooted in fear of losing their authority and social standing. One of their methods was to demand that the punishment they were warned about should occur immediately. When it did not, they falsely used the delay as proof that the message of Islam was untrue. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 48.
And they say, "When is this promise if you should be truthful?"
Such reasoning was deeply flawed. A delay in punishment does not mean it will never arrive. Rather, it reflects the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, who grants people time to repent and reform. Those who misuse the blessings they have been given should not be deceived into thinking that the absence of immediate punishment means they are safe. Punishment may be deferred, subtle, or unrecognized, but it is inevitable for those who persist in disobedience. In this world, such arrogance prevents people from achieving balance in their mental and physical state. By misusing blessings and misplacing priorities, they turn their family, friends, career, and wealth into sources of stress instead of comfort. Persisting in disobedience leads them to blame the wrong people and circumstances for their troubles, sometimes even cutting out good and supportive individuals, such as their spouse, from their lives. This only worsens their condition, driving them into anxiety, depression, substance abuse, and even suicidal tendencies. The reality of this outcome is evident when one observes those who persist in misusing blessings, such as the rich and famous, who despite enjoying worldly luxuries, often suffer inner turmoil and collapse. More importantly, their heedlessness prevents them from preparing for accountability on the day of judgment. The punishment awaiting them in the hereafter will be far more severe than any hardship they face in this life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 49 to 50.
They do not await except one blast which will seize them while they are disputing. And they will not be able to give any instruction, nor to their people can they return.
The journey of every soul from this world inevitably leads to the day of judgment, where accountability cannot be avoided. On that day, no further respite will be granted for repentance or reform, even if one declares faith, for the time to respond to faith is in this world, not in the hereafter. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 51.
And the horn will be blown, and at once from the graves to their Lord they will hasten.
The lesson is clear. Since this call is inevitable, every person should respond to the call of Allah, the Exalted, in this world, through sincere obedience to His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and facing destiny with patience, as taught by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing so, they ensure that the blessings entrusted to them are used in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 8 and Anfal, verse 24.
O you who have believed, respond to Allah and to the Messenger when he calls you to that which gives you life.
Whoever responds to this divine call during their worldly life will find the final call easy to endure. Their obedience and preparation will make resurrection a moment of relief and hope. In contrast, those who live heedless of Allah's call, misusing the blessings they have been granted, will find the trumpet blast to be a heavy burden. They will be forced to respond, but without peace, and their regret will be of no benefit. A person can only ignore the call of Allah, the Exalted, for a limited time. The final call will come sooner or later, and no one will be able to avoid or ignore it. If this is inevitable, wisdom dictates that one should respond now, today, rather than remain in heedlessness. Once the trumpet is blown, no action or regret will change the outcome, and what follows will be even more terrifying for those who neglected their duty. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 52 to 54.
They will say, "O woe to us! Who has raised us up from our sleeping place?" The reply will be, "This is what the Most Merciful had promised, and the messengers told the truth. It will not be but one blast, and at once they are all brought present before us. So today no soul will be wronged at all, and you will not be recompensed except for what you used to do."
Verse 54 serves as a solemn reminder that verbal claims of belief in Allah, the Exalted, are insufficient without the support of righteous deeds. Accountability on the Day of Judgment will be based not merely on inward faith, but on the actions performed in this world. Each person is therefore required to practically obey Allah, the Exalted, by correctly using the blessings entrusted to them in accordance with Islamic teachings. Only through such obedience can success and peace of mind be achieved in both worlds, by attaining a balanced mental and physical state, and by placing everything and everyone in their rightful position. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 54.
So today no soul will be wronged at all, and you will not be recompensed except for what you used to do.
In fact, those who depend solely on verbal declarations of faith, without reinforcing them through obedience, place themselves in serious danger of losing their faith entirely. Faith is not a static possession, but a living reality, fragile and in need of constant care. It may be likened to a delicate flame that requires continual tending. Just as a fire dies when deprived of fuel, faith weakens and may be extinguished if it is not sustained through consistent acts of obedience. Good deeds serve as the nourishment that keeps faith alive. Prayer, charity, patience, gratitude, and refraining from sin are the fuel that strengthens belief and ensures its endurance. Neglecting this spiritual nourishment places a person at risk of losing the very light that guides them through life. Such a loss is the most devastating of all, for it deprives the individual of clarity, purpose, and hope in both worlds. The lesson is unmistakable: faith must be preserved through action. Words alone are insufficient. Only by living in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, can a person ensure that their faith remains strong, their life remains balanced, and their accountability on the Day of Judgment results in mercy rather than regret. Faith without deeds is fragile and likely to fade, while deeds without faith lack divine acceptance. True success therefore lies in the union of both, belief supported by obedience. This will ensure one correctly uses the blessings they have been granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings, thereby securing peace of mind in both worlds, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 55 to 58.
Indeed, the companions of paradise that day will be amused in joyful occupation, they and their spouses in shade, reclining on adorned couches. For them therein is fruit, and for them is whatever they request. And peace, a word from a merciful Lord.
Those who fail to support their verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with righteous deeds, will ultimately be commanded to separate from those who lived in practical obedience. Although in this world such individuals may appear indistinguishable from the faithful, sharing communities, families, and outward identities, their true state will be revealed in the hereafter. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 59.
Then he will say, "But stand apart today, you criminals."
This verse highlights the distinction between outward claims and inward reality. In worldly law, a person is judged as a Muslim based on their verbal declaration of faith. Yet divine judgment is not based on appearances or words alone, but on the inward truth of the heart and the deeds that flow from it. On the Day of Judgment, Allah, the Exalted, will expose the reality hidden from others. Therefore, one who verbally claims belief in Allah, the Exalted, and accountability in the hereafter, but fails to support this claim with obedience, may in fact possess no faith within their heart. Such a person will be treated as a non-believer on the Day of Judgment, even if worldly law considered them a Muslim during their lifetime. Their separation from the obedient will be absolute, for divine justice will distinguish between those who lived by faith and those who merely professed it without sincerity. The lesson is clear: faith must be substantiated by action. Words alone cannot secure salvation. Only through obedience to Allah, the Exalted, can a person ensure that their verbal declaration reflects an inward reality, leading to unity with the faithful in the hereafter rather than separation among those condemned. Allah, the Exalted, issues a clear reminder that obedience to others in His disobedience only leads to regret and hardship in both this world and the next. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 60.
Did I not enjoin upon you, O children of Adam, that you not worship Satan, for indeed he is to you a clear enemy?
This command highlights that worship is not confined to bowing before idols or false deities. In reality, whatever a person obeys in defiance of Allah, the Exalted, whether social trends, cultural pressures, influential figures, or even personal desires, becomes the object of their worship. Allah, the Exalted, further illustrates this principle in chapter 9 at Tawbah, verse 31.
They have taken their scholars and monks as lords besides Allah.
The scholars and monks of the people of the book were not worshipped through ritual devotion, but rather through obedience in acts of rebellion against Allah, the Exalted. This obedience itself was judged as worship. Although most people do not consciously worship the devil, they are accused of doing so because they follow his whispers in opposition to Allah, the Exalted. This demonstrates that worship is ultimately about loyalty and submission. Whoever directs a person's actions away from divine obedience becomes the one they serve. Persisting in disobedience inevitably enslaves individuals to worldly influences, whether employers, celebrities, social media, or cultural fashions. Attempting to satisfy multiple masters results only in stress and imbalance, for it is impossible to meet their conflicting demands. Just as an employee with several supervisors struggles to fulfill everyone's expectations, those who abandon servitude to Allah, the Exalted, become burdened by countless worldly masters, sacrificing their peace of mind. Over time, this imbalance manifests as sadness, isolation, depression, and destructive tendencies, as their efforts to please worldly influences fail to bring satisfaction. This reality is evident in the lives of many who adopt such a mindset, including celebrities, who despite enjoying luxuries often suffer inner turmoil. Moreover, obedience to other entities in defiance of Allah, the Exalted, will yield no benefit in the hereafter. Those false masters will not defend or assist their followers when divine truth is revealed. The only path to peace in both worlds is to abandon obedience to all that leads to disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, and instead obey Him by correctly using the blessings He has granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This ensures balance in mind and body, proper placement of all aspects of life, and readiness for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 61.
And that you worship only me. This is a straight path.
Allah, the Exalted, calls upon humanity to reflect upon the countless generations before them who obeyed the devil by disobeying divine guidance, and how this led them into stress, hardship, and difficulties in both worlds. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 62.
And he had already led astray from among you much of creation. So did you not use reason?
This verse is a call to thoughtful reflection. It warns against living with a narrow, self-absorbed outlook that focuses only on personal circumstances while ignoring the broader lessons available through history, personal trials, and the experiences of others. Such blindness prevents the heart from recognizing wisdom and leads to repeated mistakes. By contrast, reflection upon these lessons refines character, strengthens resolve, and brings lasting inner peace, through achieving balance in both mental and physical states, and by correctly placing everything and everyone within life. Consider, for example, the wealthy and renowned who misuse the blessings entrusted to them. Despite their comforts, many are overtaken by anxiety, depression, addiction, or even despair, showing that genuine tranquility cannot be purchased with wealth or secured through unchecked desires. Similarly, observing someone endure illness should stir gratitude for one's own health and inspire its proper use before it slips away. Islam therefore urges people to remain mindful and reflective, to look beyond the narrow lens of their own situation, and to draw wisdom from the world around them. By doing so, individuals protect themselves from heedlessness, strengthen their faith, and ensure that the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, are used in ways that lead to peace in both this world and the next. Throughout the Holy Quran, Allah the Exalted therefore commands humanity to safeguard themselves against the deceptions of the devil by learning and acting upon divine teachings. Chapter 35, Fatir, verse 5.
And be not deceived about Allah by the deceiver.
This warning highlights the subtlety of the devil's strategies. His misguidance is not limited to overt sins, rather he often works insidiously, targeting the very foundations of faith. He distorts understanding of Allah, the Exalted, by planting doubts, offering false reassurances, and presenting half-truths that appeal to human desires. Through these tactics, he convinces individuals that their perception of Allah, the Exalted, is flawed or incomplete, leading them to persist in disobedience while believing they remain secure. Chapter 35, Fatir, verse 6.
Indeed, Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. He only invites his party to be among the companions of the blaze.
The Holy Quran repeatedly warns against being deceived by the devil, emphasizing how he exploits weakness, ignorance, and complacency. Protection against his deception requires studying the names and attributes of Allah, the Exalted, as revealed in the Holy Quran and explained by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Correct understanding of Allah, the Exalted, nurtures sound belief, inspires obedience, and guides people to use their blessings in ways pleasing to Him. Awareness that Allah, the Exalted, is all-knowing, all-wise, and all-just instills responsibility, reminding every person that each action carries consequences. Conversely, ignorance of His attributes leads to false assumptions, wishful thinking, and vulnerability to misleading whispers. For example, one who truly understands that Allah, the Exalted, is all-forgiving will strive to obey Him diligently, seeking forgiveness through sincere repentance and reform. This nurtures peace of mind, balance in mental and physical states, and proper placement of all aspects of life. In contrast, the devil deceives those who misunderstand divine forgiveness, convincing them that Allah, the Exalted, will pardon sins regardless of their actions, particularly if they have verbally professed faith. Non-believers may likewise be misled into assuming that, should Judgment Day occur, Allah, the Exalted, will forgive them despite their rejection of faith. The devil further encourages comparisons with those who commit greater crimes, fostering a false sense of security that trivializes accountability. Such reasoning entrenches disobedience and leads to misuse of blessings. Persisting in this attitude disrupts balance, misplaces priorities, and transforms blessings into burdens. Family, friends, career, and wealth, meant to be sources of support, become sources of stress and anxiety. Those who continue in disobedience may even blame loved ones for their hardships, cutting them off and intensifying their suffering. This destructive cycle often manifests in depression, addiction, or despair, a reality visible among the rich and famous, whose outward luxury conceals inner turmoil. More dangerously, those who fail to support their verbal declaration of faith with sincere deeds risk leaving this world without genuine belief. Faith is like a fragile flame. If not continually nourished, it weakens and may be extinguished. Sustaining this flame requires vigilance, obedience, and consistent good deeds. The devil seeks to deceive people into believing that faith can survive without effort, but this is a dangerous illusion. Faith demands constant cultivation. Those who tend to it remain steadfast and illuminated, while those who neglect it fall into darkness and loss in both worlds. Without deliberate care, a person risks losing guidance, peace, and ultimate success. This underscores the necessity of sustained devotion and practical adherence to the path of Allah, the Exalted. Supporting verbal faith with righteous action ensures blessings are used correctly, balance is achieved in mind and body, and accountability on the Day of Judgment is met with mercy rather than regret. Such holistic obedience leads to true peace in both this life and the hereafter. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 62.
And he had already led astray from among you much of creation, so did you not use reason?
Another method by which the devil misguides people is by distorting their perception of hell. He convinces some that hell is nothing more than a fictional construct devised by religious leaders to control behavior, while to others he downplays its severity, turning it into a subject of mockery rather than fear. This attitude has become widespread, as hell is increasingly treated as a joke. As a result, many compare its punishment to worldly suffering, persuading themselves that enduring the hereafter is worth indulging in worldly desires. Therefore, one of the central reasons why the realities of the hereafter, such as the Day of Judgment and Hell, are described with vivid detail in Islamic teachings is to dismantle these false beliefs. Previous nations belittled these realities, even mocking them, and their dismissive attitude was rooted in wishful thinking. They persisted in disobedience, while falsely assuming that salvation would still be theirs. These assumptions took many forms: reliance on the intercession of a righteous person without personal reform, belief that a mere verbal claim of faith would suffice for salvation, presumption that excuses and repentance would automatically be accepted regardless of deeds, and the notion that the punishments of the hereafter would be no harsher than worldly punishments. To eradicate such misconceptions, the Holy Quran presents the hereafter in detail, so that people may grasp its seriousness and prepare accordingly. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 63 to 64.
This is the hellfire which you were promised. Enter to burn therein today for what you used to deny.
These descriptions are not intended to instill despair, but to awaken hearts to reality and encourage practical obedience to Allah, the Exalted. True obedience requires using the blessings He has granted in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By internalizing these teachings, individuals are safeguarded from complacency, shielded from false hopes, and guided towards sincerity and accountability. In this way, they secure protection from punishment and achieve success in both worlds. Allah, the Exalted, reminds humanity that His judgment cannot be compared to that of worldly judges, who may be deceived by false testimony or misleading witnesses. In this world, a judge relies on the words of witnesses and the presentation of evidence, both of which can be manipulated or concealed. However, on the Day of Judgment, no deception will be possible, for Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete knowledge of every action and intention. He will cause the very body parts of each person to testify against them, establishing irrefutable evidence of their deeds. This testimony will be undeniable, for it will come directly from the blessings entrusted to each individual, leaving no room for excuses or false claims. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 65.
That day we will seal over their mouths, and their hands will speak to us, and their feet will testify about what they used to earn.
The tongue, which often seeks to excuse, justify, or conceal wrongdoing, will be silenced, preventing any attempt to distort the truth. Instead, the hands and feet, symbols of action and movement, will bear witness to what was truly done throughout life. The hands will testify to the deeds they carried out, whether acts of charity or acts of harm, while the feet will testify to the places they traveled, whether towards obedience or towards sin. This testimony cannot be denied or refuted, for it comes from the very instruments of action themselves. It will be a moment of absolute clarity, where every person will see the reality of their life laid bare before Allah, the Exalted, without the possibility of denial. The severity of this reality demands that every individual reflect deeply on how they use the blessings granted to them, particularly their body. The body is not merely a vessel for worldly pursuits, but a trust from Allah, the Exalted, which must be used in ways pleasing to Him. Correct use of these blessings brings benefit in this world, leading to peace of mind, balance in mental and physical states, and proper placement of everything and everyone within life. When the body is used for obedience, such as hands engaged in charity, tongue speaking truth, and feet walking towards righteousness, it becomes a source of tranquility and reward. More importantly, it ensures that these blessings testify in one's favor on the Day of Judgment, becoming witnesses of righteousness rather than condemnation. Conversely, the outcome for those whose blessings testify against them is both obvious and terrifying. Their own limbs will expose their misuse, leaving them without defense or excuse. The very body they relied upon for worldly pursuits will turn against them, recounting every act of disobedience and every misuse of divine blessings. This testimony will seal their fate, as no denial or argument can stand against the evidence presented by their own being. Such a reminder calls for vigilance, gratitude, and obedience, so that the body and all other blessings become witnesses of sincerity and righteousness rather than instruments of condemnation. Those who heed this warning will find peace in both worlds, while those who ignore it will face regret and punishment that cannot be escaped. Another deception employed by the devil, which Allah, the Exalted, warns against in earlier verses, is his attempt to distract people from recognizing the link between their disobedience and the stress, trouble, and difficulties they face in life. These hardships are not random. They arise from the imbalance created when a person misuses the blessings they have been granted, resulting in an unbalanced mental and physical state, and the misplacement of everything and everyone within their life. By severing this connection in the minds of people, the devil blinds them to the consequences of their actions, encouraging them to persist in disobedience without realizing its destructive impact. For those who do recognize the connection between disobedience and hardship, the devil employs another tactic. He convinces them to continue pursuing their desires by falsely promising that Allah, the Exalted, will continue to grant them respite and will not fully punish them for their disobedience. This false assurance leads them to dismiss divine punishment as something distant or unlikely, thereby weakening their resolve to reform. Such reasoning is perilous, for it trivializes the justice of Allah, the Exalted, and emboldens people to persist in sin under the illusion of safety. Allah, the Exalted, directly warns against adopting this attitude, reminding humanity that his punishment should never be dismissed lightly. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 66 to 67.
And if we willed, we could have obliterated their eyes, and they would race to find the path, and how could they see? And if we willed, we could have deformed them, paralyzing them in their places so they would not be able to proceed, nor could they return.
Such imagery demonstrates that respite is not guaranteed, and that punishment can descend at any moment. It is therefore foolish to rely on false assurances, or to dismiss divine warnings. The lesson is clear. One must never allow the devil to deceive them into thinking that disobedience carries no consequences, or that punishment will never arrive. Instead, every person should strive to use the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in ways pleasing to him, thereby achieving balance in mind and body, correctly placing everything and everyone within their life, and preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Those who heed this warning will find peace and security, while those who ignore it will face regret and punishment that cannot be escaped. Allah, the Exalted, further reminds humanity that his control over creation is absolute, and one of the clearest signs of this control is the inevitable return to weakness in both physical and mental strength as time passes. No matter how much effort people exert to preserve their vitality, they cannot escape the stages ordained by Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 68.
And he to whom we grant long life, we reverse in creation.
This verse reveals the divine cycle of human existence. Allah, the Exalted, creates people in weakness as infants, grants them strength in youth and adulthood, and then returns them to weakness in old age if long life has been granted. Infancy is marked by dependence, fragility, and limited understanding. Adulthood brings physical strength, mental clarity, and independence. Yet with the passing of time, these qualities inevitably decline. Old age often brings frailty, forgetfulness, and reliance on others once again. This reversal is not accidental, but a deliberate reminder of divine power and human limitation. The reality of this transformation demonstrates that human beings are not masters of their destiny, but subjects of divine will. Even the strongest, most intelligent, and most influential individuals cannot prevent the decline of their faculties. Physical vitality diminishes, mental sharpness weakens, and dependence on others increases. This process is a humbling reminder that worldly strength is temporary and that reliance on Allah, the Exalted, is essential at every stage of life. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 68.
So will they not understand?
The lesson is clear. Since Allah, the Exalted, alone controls creation and its progression, He alone deserves to be obeyed in every situation. Recognizing this truth should inspire humility, gratitude, and obedience, as well as a commitment to use the blessings of youth, health, and intelligence before they inevitably fade. Those who fail to understand this reality often waste their strength in disobedience, only to face regret when weakness overtakes them. Those who do understand will live with balance, correctly placing everything and everyone within their life, and achieving peace of mind in both worlds. They will use their youth for worship, their health for aiding humanity, and their intelligence for learning and reflection, ensuring that when weakness returns, they are prepared for accountability. Those who ignore this reminder will find themselves unprepared for the decline of strength and the judgment that awaits them, as their misplaced reliance on worldly power will prove futile. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 68.
And he to whom we grant long life, we reverse in creation.
This stage-by-stage progression of human life, which inevitably leads to decline, serves as a profound reminder of death and the ultimate return to Allah, the Exalted. Just as infancy, youth, adulthood, and old age cannot be avoided despite the immense efforts and resources invested by societies to resist them, death itself is unavoidable. No amount of wealth, medicine, or technology can prevent the appointed end, nor can it delay accountability in the hereafter. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 68.
So will they not understand?
This rhetorical question challenges people to reflect on the certainty of their mortality and the futility of ignoring it. The one who truly understands this reality will not live heedlessly, but will be constantly reminded to prepare for death in practical ways. Preparation means correctly using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in accordance with Islamic teachings. Every stage of life, whether marked by strength or weakness, becomes an opportunity to obey Him, to show gratitude, and to align one's actions with divine guidance. Such obedience ensures peace of mind in this world, for it brings balance to both mental and physical states and allows a person to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. Family, wealth, health, and intellect are then used in their proper roles, serving as supports rather than burdens. This balanced approach not only secures tranquility during the journey of life, but also prepares the individual for accountability in the hereafter. When death arrives, the one who has lived with this awareness will face it not with fear, but with readiness. Their preparation will lead to success, peace of mind, and the attainment of permanent strength in the eternal life to come. In contrast, those who ignored the reminder and misused their blessings will find themselves unprepared, facing regret and loss that cannot be reversed. The lesson is clear. Just as the decline of strength is inevitable, so too is death and accountability, and only obedience to Allah, the Exalted, secures everlasting peace. Obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires and ambitions of people, and for this reason many ignore the clear signs placed before them. Instead of submitting, they persist in disobedience by misusing the blessings they have been granted. This attitude was clearly demonstrated by the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, who feared losing their leadership, wealth, and social influence if Islam spread among the people. Their resistance was not based on ignorance of the truth, for they had witnessed the character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and recognized the uniqueness of the Holy Quran. Rather, their opposition stemmed from arrogance and self-interest. In their desperation, they employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam, including ridicule, false accusations, and attempts to undermine the credibility of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. One such method was accusing him of being a poet, who composed verses and presented them as the Holy Quran, a claim designed to diminish the divine nature of the revelation and reduce it to mere human creativity. This accusation was baseless and foolish. The non-Muslims of Mecca were themselves masters of the Arabic language, renowned for their eloquence and skill in poetry. They knew well that the Holy Quran was neither poetry nor the words of any human being, for its style, depth, and wisdom were unlike anything they had ever encountered. Furthermore, they had lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for 40 years before his announcement of prophethood. During this time, they witnessed his honesty, integrity, and seriousness, and they knew he was furthest from vain pursuits such as poetry or entertainment. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
This verse reminds them that his life was an open book before them, free of deceit or frivolity, and that their accusation was nothing more than a desperate attempt to deny the truth. And chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 69.
And we did not give Prophet Muhammad knowledge of poetry, nor is it befitting for him. It is not but a reminder and a clear Quran.
This declaration makes clear that the Holy Quran is not poetry, nor does it resemble it in any way. Unlike poetry, which often relies on embellishment, metaphor, and imaginative expression, the Holy Quran is entirely free from exaggeration, falsehood, aimless dialogue, lewdness, ambiguity, and concepts that cannot be acted upon. Every verse of the Holy Quran is purposeful, precise, and practical, guiding individuals toward moral refinement, spiritual elevation, and the correct ordering of their lives. Its words are not ornamental or designed merely to entertain. They are directives that shape conduct, purify the heart, and establish justice within society. The Holy Quran speaks with clarity and authority, addressing the deepest needs of the human soul, and providing solutions for both individual and collective challenges. It does not indulge in fanciful imagery or empty rhetoric, but instead offers timeless principles that remain relevant across all ages and circumstances. By contrast, poetry, though often eloquent and aesthetically pleasing, frequently relies on exaggeration and artistic devices that may entertain or inspire but do not necessarily provide actionable guidance or enduring principles by which to live. Poetry can glorify vices, exaggerate realities, or dwell on themes of vanity and desire, whereas the Holy Quran consistently calls to truth, righteousness, and accountability before Allah the Exalted. Poetry may stir emotion, but it does not establish a framework for life, nor does it guarantee spiritual elevation or moral clarity. Its impact is limited to the imagination and emotions of its audience, often fading with time or changing with cultural trends. The Holy Quran, however, penetrates the heart and mind with divine wisdom, offering a comprehensive system of belief and practice that secures peace in this world and salvation in the hereafter. To equate the Holy Quran with poetry is therefore a profound error. The Holy Quran transcends the limitations of human composition, combining unmatched eloquence with timeless wisdom and practical instruction. It is not a work of art for admiration alone, but a divine revelation intended to transform individuals and societies. Its purpose is to guide humanity to salvation, to establish justice, and to nurture sincerity and obedience to Allah the Exalted. The Holy Quran is a living miracle, unmatched in its linguistic perfection and unchallenged in its depth of meaning, serving as both a reminder and a clear proof of divine authority. Only those who fail to grasp this distinction would attempt to compare the Holy Quran with poetry, for the two are utterly incomparable in both purpose and effect. The Holy Quran is the speech of Allah, the Exalted, eternal in wisdom and flawless in guidance, while poetry remains the product of human imagination, limited in scope and fleeting in impact. Poetry may entertain or inspire for a moment, but the Holy Quran transforms lives, reforms societies, and prepares humanity for accountability before Allah the Exalted. It is the ultimate source of truth and guidance, a mercy for all creation, and a light that will never fade. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 69.
It is not but a reminder and a clear Quran.
Furthermore, divine revelation has been referred to in this verse as a reminder, and indeed, the Holy Quran and the teachings of Islam serve as a reminder for all people, for they are designed in perfect harmony with human nature. Any code of conduct that contradicts the innate disposition of humanity will inevitably feel foreign and burdensome, producing mental and physical disruption when individuals attempt to follow it. By contrast, because Islamic teachings are divinely crafted to correspond with the very essence of humanity, they feel inherently familiar, nurturing balance in both the mental and physical states. This sense of harmony is not accidental but intentional, for Allah, the Exalted, has revealed guidance that restores people to their natural state, rather than imposing an artificial framework upon them. This sense of familiarity is especially pronounced among those who embrace Islam after following another religion or way of life. Many converts testify that even without prior study, the principles of Islam resonate deeply within them, as though they are rediscovering something already inscribed upon their hearts. This is because Islam does not impose foreign codes of conduct upon human beings. Rather, it restores them to the natural state upon which Allah, the Exalted, has created all people. It is a return to what is authentic and innate, a rediscovery of the truth that was always present but obscured by cultural, social, or religious distortions. Other systems, by contrast, often impose codes of conduct that are alien to human nature, leading to inner conflict, imbalance, and discontent. They may demand practices that suppress natural inclinations or promote ideals that contradict the human soul's deepest needs, resulting in confusion and unrest. Nevertheless, this reality may not be fully grasped until one approaches Islamic teachings with an open and impartial mindset. Prejudice, arrogance, or blind attachment to inherited traditions can veil the heart from recognizing the harmony between revelation and human nature. When individuals cling to pride or inherited customs without reflection, they may dismiss divine guidance as restrictive or foreign. Yet when approached sincerely, with humility and openness, divine guidance reveals itself not as a burden or limitation, but as a reminder that restores balance, cultivates tranquility, and directs humanity towards its true purpose. It becomes evident that the Holy Quran is not an imposition but a restoration, aligning human beings with the natural order established by Allah, the Exalted. In this way, revelation becomes both a mirror and a compass. It is a mirror that reflects the innate truth already within the human soul, reminding each person of the divine imprint upon their nature. It is also a compass that guides the soul towards peace of mind in both worlds, through achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. The Holy Quran does not merely instruct, it awakens, reminding humanity of what they already know deep within themselves, and directing them towards the path of obedience, gratitude, and ultimate success. Those who embrace it sincerely find themselves restored to harmony, while those who reject it remain in imbalance, deprived of the peace that only divine guidance can provide. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 70.
To warn whoever is alive, and justify the judgment against the disbelievers.
Just as only a living person can respond to a warning, those whose spiritual hearts have died under the weight of worldly desires will not respond to the teachings of the Holy Quran, even if they verbally claim belief in it. Their disinterest in right guidance and their submission to desire blinds them from recognizing the truth, and they persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, by misusing the blessings they have been granted. In this world, such an attitude prevents them from achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and it causes them to misplace everything and everyone within their life. Instead of finding peace and order, they experience confusion and imbalance as their blessings, meant to be sources of support, become burdens. As a result, everything within their life, including family, friends, career, and wealth, becomes a source of stress rather than comfort. Their misuse of blessings transforms what should have been a means of tranquility into instruments of anxiety. If they persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, they begin to misdirect blame, holding the wrong things and people responsible for their hardships. Spouses, children, or colleagues may be unfairly accused of being the cause of their stress, when in reality the root lies in their own disobedience and neglect of divine guidance. Cutting these good people out of their lives only intensifies their suffering, isolating them further and depriving them of the very support they need. This destructive cycle often leads to mental disorders, plunging individuals into depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. The outcome is evident when one observes those who persist in misusing the blessings they have been granted, such as the rich and famous. Despite enjoying worldly luxuries, their lives are often marked by instability, despair, and inner emptiness. Outward wealth and fame cannot conceal the turmoil of a heart deprived of divine guidance. Their example serves as a visible warning that worldly success without obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is hollow and ultimately destructive. Most gravely, this attitude prevents them from preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment. While they may enjoy temporary luxuries in this world, their neglect of divine guidance ensures that their punishment in the hereafter will be far worse. The blessings they misused will testify against them, and the peace they sought through worldly indulgence will be replaced with regret and loss. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 70.
Justify the judgment against the disbelievers.
Furthermore, this verse warns those who verbally claim faith in Allah, the Exalted, yet fail to support that claim with good actions, of the grave danger of losing their faith altogether. Faith is not sustained by words alone. It requires consistent obedience and righteous deeds to remain alive and strong. It is vital to understand that faith resembles a delicate plant, which must be nourished with acts of obedience in order to flourish and survive. Just as a plant deprived of nourishment such as sunlight, water, and care will inevitably wither and die, so too may the faith of a person perish if it is not sustained through good deeds. Neglecting good deeds leaves faith vulnerable, weak, and eventually extinguished. This is the greatest loss, for it deprives a person of guidance in this world and salvation in the hereafter. The analogy of faith as a plant underscores the necessity of constant attention and cultivation. One must guard their faith against the poisons of sin and the distractions of worldly desire, while nourishing it with obedience, humility, and gratitude. Only then will faith grow strong, providing shade, fruit, and beauty in both worlds. But if neglected, it will wither, leaving the individual in darkness and despair. This reminder calls every person to vigilance, for the loss of faith is not sudden but gradual, like a plant slowly dying from lack of care. Those who heed this warning will strive to nurture their faith daily, ensuring it remains vibrant and enduring. Those who ignore it risk the most devastating deprivation, the extinguishing of the very light that was meant to guide them to eternal success. Allah, the Exalted, indicates another sign within creation that should inspire people to adopt gratitude to Him for the countless and continuous blessings He grants them. This sign is the creation of grazing livestock, which serve humanity in numerous ways. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 71.
Do they not see that we have created for them, from what our hands have made, grazing livestock, and then they are their owners?
This verse highlights the reality that mankind, despite its efforts in agriculture and animal husbandry, cannot claim ownership of the creative process itself. Human beings may cultivate crops or breed animals, but they cannot breathe life into a seed or embryo. The spark of life is beyond human reach and belongs solely to Allah, the Exalted. This truth should humble humanity, reminding them that their sustenance is not self-generated but divinely granted. The continuous supply of provision through livestock is a mercy that sustains societies across generations, and it is a sign that demands gratitude and recognition, a divine authority. Chapter 16 and Nal, verse 5.
And the grazing livestock He has created for you. In them is warmth and numerous benefits, and from them you eat.
This verse draws attention to the multifaceted benefits of livestock. They provide warmth through their hides and wool, sustenance through their meat, and countless other utilities. To this day, agriculture remains the backbone of human provision, and livestock are indispensable to it. They are not only a source of food, but also a source of clothing, shelter, and tools. The precision of their creation is a miracle in itself. Consider the goat, whose body has been designed with such perfection that impurities within its system are completely separated from the milk it produces. If these impurities were to mix with the milk, it would be rendered unsuitable for consumption. Yet Allah, the Exalted, ensures that what emerges is pure, wholesome, and palatable. Chapter 16 and Nal, verse 66.
And indeed for you in grazing livestock is a lesson. We give you drink from what is in their bellies, between excretion and blood, pure milk palatable to drinkers.
This verse is a reminder that even the most basic provisions, such as milk, are the result of divine wisdom and mercy. Human beings consume it daily, often without reflecting on the miraculous process that makes it possible. Beyond sustenance, Allah, the Exalted, has provided people with sources of income through various businesses, such as agriculture, which are only possible because of the blessings He has granted. These businesses not only provide provision, but also bring joy to their owners and ensure that economies remain strong and stable. Chapter 16 and Nal, verse 6.
And for you in them is the enjoyment of beauty when you bring them in for the evening, and when you send them out to pasture.
In addition to food, clothing, and income, Allah, the Exalted, has provided animals for transportation. They enable people to travel easily to distant lands for tourism, trade, and exploration. Even in the modern age, with advanced vehicles and technology, there remain places that cannot be reached without animal transportation. In such regions, livestock remain indispensable, allowing people to access natural resources and sustain their livelihoods. This provision demonstrates the wisdom and mercy of Allah, the Exalted, who has ensured that creation serves humanity in countless ways, both practical and aesthetic. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 72 to 73.
And we have tamed them for them, so some of them they ride, and some of them they eat. And for them therein are other benefits and drinks, so will they not be grateful?
One who provides for another in even a limited way, such as offering them shelter or housing, is naturally deserving of gratitude. If this is true for human beings, then it is far more necessary that gratitude be shown to Allah, the Exalted, who has granted every blessing within the universe to people. True gratitude begins with the heart and intention, meaning that one acts solely to please Allah, the Exalted. Any deed performed for other motives, such as seeking praise, recognition, or worldly gain, will not be rewarded by him. This principle is emphasized in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154, which warns that actions are judged by their intentions. A clear sign of sincerity is that a person does not expect appreciation or compensation from others, but finds contentment in the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted, alone. Gratitude also manifests through speech. This involves using the tongue only for what is good, such as praising Allah, the Exalted, speaking truth and encouraging righteousness, or otherwise remaining silent when no good words can be spoken. The tongue is a powerful blessing, and its misuse through lies, complaints, or harmful speech is a form of ingratitude. By contrast, a tongue that remembers Allah, the Exalted, and speaks with kindness is a tongue that fulfills its purpose. Gratitude further appears in one's actions. This means using the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in ways that please Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Wealth should be spent in charity, health should be used in worship, and knowledge should be shared for benefit. When blessings are used correctly, Allah, the Exalted, increases them. Chapter 14, Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
This increase is not limited to material gain, but includes tranquility, balance in mental and physical states, and success in both worlds. Gratitude ensures that everything and everyone within life is placed in their proper position, preventing disorder and stress. Ownership also illustrates this truth. When a person owns something, it is accepted that they may use it however they wish. Since Allah, the Exalted, created, owns, and sustains everything in the universe, including people, He alone has the right to decide what should occur within it. Therefore, obedience to Him is not only fair but necessary, for He is the rightful owner of all. Similarly, when someone lends an item to another, it is only fair that the borrower uses it according to the wishes of its owner. Allah, the Exalted, has granted every blessing in this world as a loan, not as a gift. Like worldly loans, these blessings must be repaid, and the only way to repay them is to use them in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. By contrast, the blessings of paradise are gifts freely granted to the righteous, and they may be enjoyed without restriction. Chapter 7, Al-Araf, verse 43.
And they will be called, "This is paradise which you have been made to inherit for what you used to do."
A person must therefore never confuse the blessings of this world, which are temporary loans, with the gifts of paradise, which are eternal rewards. Worldly blessings must be used responsibly, with obedience and gratitude, while the gifts of paradise will be enjoyed freely as the fruit of righteous deeds. Recognizing this distinction inspires humility, responsibility, and hope, ensuring that one lives with gratitude in this world, and prepares for the eternal gifts of the hereafter. Throughout history, there have been communities who acknowledged the existence of Allah, the Exalted, yet misunderstood His perfection by attributing human weaknesses to Him. They imagined Him to be like a worldly monarch, who required assistance to manage his dominion. Just as kings appoint governors to oversee their territories, they assumed Allah, the Exalted, delegated authority to angels or other beings. This false assumption led them to worship these entities, hoping to gain favor and intercession through them. In reality, this practice allowed them to continue pursuing their worldly desires, while convincing themselves that salvation was assured through the intervention of others. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 74.
But they have taken besides Allah false deities that perhaps they would be helped.
Sadly, this misconception has also appeared among some Muslims, who devote time, wealth, and energy to venerating spiritual figures believed to hold special access to Allah, the Exalted. They treat these individuals as intermediaries, imagining that gifts, exaggerated respect, or devotion to them will secure divine favor. Chapter 36, Yaseen, verse 75.
They are not able to help them.
This belief stands in direct contradiction to Islamic teachings. The holy prophets, peace be upon them, were never gatekeepers to Allah, the Exalted. They did not seek personal gain, nor did they claim exclusive authority over divine mercy. Their mission was to illuminate the path of obedience, teaching people how to attain Allah's pleasure directly through worship, sincerity, and righteous deeds. Their role was to guide, not to stand between humanity and their Creator. For example, chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 186.
And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me.
And chapter 40 Ghafir, verse 60.
And your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you.
Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 255.
Who is it that can intercede with him except by his permission?
Intercession will indeed occur on the Day of Judgment, but it must never be trivialized or treated as a substitute for obedience. To rely on it carelessly risks being deprived of this mercy altogether. Often, those who disparage or misuse the concept of intercession do so out of complacency, neglecting to use their blessings in accordance with Islamic principles while still expecting salvation through others. Such negligence may even result in the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, testifying against them. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 30.
And the Messenger has said, O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as a thing abandoned.
This warning is directed specifically at Muslims, for they alone have acknowledged and embraced the Holy Quran. Non-Muslims, having never accepted its guidance, cannot be described as abandoning it. The verse therefore highlights the betrayal of those who profess faith, yet neglect the very scripture that defines their identity. If the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, bears witness against a Muslim on the Day of Judgment, the outcome will be severe, for such testimony confirms their abandonment of divine trust. Even in cases where intercession is granted, negligence may not prevent entry into hell. At most, it may reduce the intensity or duration of punishment. This reality underscores the seriousness of complacency. It must be understood that even the briefest experience of hell is unbearable, far beyond human endurance. To rely solely on intercession without striving sincerely in this world is therefore a dangerous illusion, one that undermines the very purpose of revelation and strips faith of responsibility. True salvation lies in obedience, gratitude, and direct devotion to Allah, the Exalted, not in misplaced reliance on others. It is important to recognize that idols are not the only false deities that people may end up worshipping. In truth, anything that is obeyed in defiance of Allah, the Exalted, whether social media, fashion, cultural trends, or even other individuals, becomes a form of worship. When a person turns away from obedience to Allah, the Exalted, they inevitably fall under the control of these influences, allowing them to dictate their priorities and behavior. Their lives become shaped by the demands of worldly masters rather than divine guidance. Attempting to serve multiple influences at once only produces stress and imbalance, for it is impossible to satisfy them all. Their demands are inconsistent, ever-changing, and often contradictory. Just as an employee with several supervisors struggles to meet everyone's expectations, those who abandon servitude to Allah, the Exalted, become burdened by numerous masters. This constant conflict robs them of peace of mind and leaves them vulnerable to instability. Over time, this imbalance can lead to sadness, isolation, depression, and even destructive tendencies, as their efforts to please worldly powers fail to bring the fulfillment they desire. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 75.
They are not able to help them, and they themselves are for them soldiers in attendance.
This verse highlights the futility of relying on anything besides Allah, the Exalted. Those who are obeyed in disobedience cannot provide real help, nor will they stand by their followers when accountability arrives. This truth is evident when one observes those who have adopted this mindset, such as celebrities, who outwardly appear successful, yet inwardly suffer from instability, despair, and emptiness. Their wealth and fame cannot shield them from the consequences of misplaced worship. Ultimately, yielding to other entities in disobedience to Allah, the Exalted, will never provide benefit in the hereafter. These influences will not assist their followers in their time of need, nor will they share in their burden. Only obedience to Allah, the Exalted, secures peace in this world and salvation in the next. Those who recognize this truth free themselves from the tyranny of worldly masters and find tranquility in serving the one who alone deserves worship. As mentioned earlier, the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca devised numerous tactics to prevent people from embracing Islam, motivated by their fear of losing authority and social standing. In the face of this opposition, Allah, the Exalted, repeatedly reassured the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, instructing him not to be troubled by their schemes or words. Instead, he was commanded to remain steadfast in his mission, to explain the teachings of Islam clearly, to embody them as the perfect example for others to follow, and to leave the matter of accountability to Allah, the Exalted. Since Allah, the Exalted, is fully aware of what people conceal and what they reveal, He promised to protect His Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and ensure the successful completion of his mission. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 76.
So let not their speech grieve you. Indeed, we know what they conceal and what they declare.
In life, when someone chooses a path that differs from those around them, it often exposes the weaknesses in the choices of others, particularly when those choices are rooted in personal desire rather than obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This can provoke criticism and hostility, sometimes even from close family members, directed at those who remain firm in their faith. Such reactions mirror the resistance faced by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and highlight the timeless struggle between truth and desire. Modern influences intensify this challenge. Social media, fashion, and cultural trends frequently pressure individuals to compromise their values. Islam's emphasis on moderation and accountability is often portrayed as an obstacle to ambitions of wealth, fame, or social status. Industries that thrive on indulgence and excess naturally resist Islamic principles, fueling anti-Islamic sentiments across platforms and discouraging Muslims from practicing their faith openly. Those who strive to live by Islamic teachings, moderating their desires and responsibly enjoying the blessings they have been granted, are often met with hostility from those who indulge without restraint. Islam describes such unrestrained indulgence as animalistic, for it reduces human beings to creatures driven solely by impulse. Critics frequently target specific aspects of Islam, such as the dress code for women, in an attempt to undermine its appeal. Yet their arguments are shallow and inconsistent. For example, they rarely question the strict dress codes imposed in professions such as law enforcement, the military, healthcare, or business. Their selective criticism reveals that their true objection lies not in clothing, but in Islam's emphasis on self-discipline and moral boundaries. Ultimately, it is the principles of Islam and the disciplined conduct of its followers that provoke these attacks, leading detractors to criticize the faith in any way possible. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 76.
So let not their speech grieve you.
In every circumstance, a person must remain unwavering in their obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Such dedication brings serenity and shields them from harmful influences, even if this protection is not immediately visible. Loyalty to Allah ensures that blessings are used correctly, fostering harmony in both mental and physical states. This balance allows a person to organize their life effectively, prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment, and experience tranquility in both worlds. Guided by faith, they will navigate ease and hardship with peace of mind, ultimately receiving boundless rewards. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 76.
Indeed, we know what they conceal and what they declare.
By contrast, those who ignore the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in pursuit of human approval will lose inner peace. Their misuse of blessings will lead to disorder, misplacing priorities and relationships, and leaving them unprepared for accountability. This results in stress, hardship, and failure in both this life and the next, regardless of material comforts. To remain resilient, a person must cultivate strong faith. Firm belief is essential for staying devoted to Allah, the Exalted, in all circumstances. Such faith is nurtured through understanding and applying the clear signs and teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These teachings demonstrate that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, brings tranquility in both worlds. By contrast, ignorance of Islamic principles produces fragile faith, easily shaken when desires conflict with divine guidance. Without knowledge, a person fails to grasp that surrendering personal desires to Allah's commands is the path to true peace. Therefore, it is vital to strengthen faith through the pursuit of Islamic knowledge and its practical application. This ensures obedience to Allah, the Exalted, at all times and enables a person to use their blessings in accordance with His guidance. In doing so, they achieve balance in mind and body, correctly prioritize all aspects of life, and prepare for eternal success. Obeying Allah, the Exalted, often stands in direct contradiction to the worldly desires and ambitions of people. As a result, many arrogantly reject, ignore, and oppose Islam, forgetting that the very one they oppose is their creator and sustainer, who continuously provides for them. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verses 77 to 78.
Does man not consider that we created him from a mere sperm drop? Then at once he is a clear adversary. And he presents for us an example and forgets his own creation. He says, "Who will give life to bones while they are disintegrated?"
These verses expose a common tendency among those who wish to dismiss truths that conflict with their desires. They exaggerate the matter to the point of absurdity, making it appear unreasonable or impossible, and then use this distortion as justification for rejection. This is a deliberate tactic to avoid responsibility and maintain indulgence in worldly pursuits. For example, when someone is advised to treat relatives with respect and kindness, they may excuse their misconduct by claiming such counsel demands perfection, like becoming angelic, never showing even the slightest flaw. Since human perfection is unattainable, they dismiss the advice as unrealistic, even though it was practical and achievable. In this way, they justify their poor behavior and avoid making necessary changes. Such reasoning is not only dishonest but also destructive, as it prevents individuals from assuming responsibility for their actions and leads them further into misguidance. Neglecting accountability stunts the growth of character and fosters misuse of the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted. This negligence results in both mental and physical disorder, causing individuals to misplace priorities and relationships in their lives. They become unprepared for accountability on the Day of Judgment, and no amount of material wealth can shield them from the consequences of their neglect. Their failure to take responsibility inevitably leads to stress, hardship, and adversity in both this life and the next. Moreover, evading accountability prevents individuals from fulfilling the rights of others. When rights are neglected, corruption and injustice spread within communities, weakening the bonds of trust and compassion that hold societies together. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance not only harms the individual but also destabilizes the wider community. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 78.
He says, "Who will give life to bones while they are disintegrated?"
The statement denying resurrection is indeed foolish, for the one who created humanity from nothing the first time is more than capable of bringing them back to life after they have turned into dust and bones. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 79.
Say, "He will give them life who produced them the first time."
His infinite knowledge encompasses all things, and His power ensures that He can resurrect people exactly as they were on earth. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 79.
And He is of all creation knowing.
To deny resurrection is irrational, for examples of revival and renewal are witnessed constantly in creation. Rain revives barren land, causing dead seeds to burst forth alive, providing sustenance for all living beings. In the same way, Allah the Exalted will bring forth the human being buried in the earth, just as He brings forth the seed to life. The cycle of seasons also demonstrates resurrection. In winter, trees appear lifeless as their leaves fall, yet in spring and summer they return to life, full of greenery. Resurrection is even evident within the human body. Cells continuously die and are replaced, such as skin cells. The sleep-wake cycle is another sign, for sleep is described as the sister of death. During sleep, the senses are cut off, yet Allah, the Exalted, returns the soul to the sleeper if they are destined to live on, granting them life once again. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
Allah, the Exalted, provides yet another clear sign of His absolute power to resurrect the dead. He draws attention to the remarkable reality that people ignite fire, something living and dynamic, from what appears lifeless, a tree. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 80.
It is He who made for you from the green tree fire, and then from it you ignite.
This example demonstrates that Allah, the Exalted, brings forth life from what is seemingly dead, reminding humanity that resurrection is not beyond His capability. Just as fire emerges from wood, so too can life emerge from dust and bones by His command. Allah, the Exalted, then rebukes those who deny resurrection by pointing to the vastness of His creation. He created and sustains the heavens and the earth, which are infinitely greater in scale and complexity than human beings. If He has the power to create and maintain such immense structures, then surely resurrecting a single human being is effortless for Him. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 81.
Is not He who created the heavens and the earth able to create the likes of them? Yes, it is so, and He is the knowing Creator.
Here Allah, the Exalted, affirms that His knowledge encompasses all creation, and His power is absolute. Nothing is beyond Him, and no detail escapes His awareness. Finally, the ease with which resurrection will occur is emphasized. Allah, the Exalted, does not require effort, tools, or processes as humans do. His command is instantaneous, and His will is sufficient to bring anything into existence. Chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 82.
His command is only when He intends a thing that He says to it, be, and it is.
This verse encapsulates the simplicity and certainty of resurrection. For Allah, the Exalted, creation and recreation are effortless acts of will. Furthermore, observing the universe reveals countless examples of balance: the Earth's perfect distance from the Sun, the water cycle sustaining life, and the ground being soft enough for seeds yet strong enough to support structures. These examples testify to a Creator and the principle of balance. Yet human actions remain unbalanced. Oppressors often escape punishment, while the oppressed endure hardship without receiving their due reward. Many who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, face difficulties, while those who disobey enjoy worldly luxuries. Just as balance is evident in creation, balance must also be established in human accountability. Since this balance does not occur fully in this world, it must occur in another, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could reward and punish fully in this world, but His wisdom dictates otherwise. He grants opportunities for repentance, allowing people to correct their behavior. He does not fully reward the obedient here, for this world is not paradise. Faith requires belief in the unseen reward of the hereafter, and this belief is what makes faith distinct. If reward were fully visible in this world, faith would lose its meaning. Fear of punishment and hope for reward in the hereafter encourage people to abstain from sin and perform righteous deeds. For the day of recompense to begin, the material world must end, for reward and punishment can only be given once all actions have concluded. This confirms that the material world will inevitably come to an end. Reflecting on these truths strengthens faith in the Day of Judgment and inspires preparation for it. This preparation involves correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing so, a person achieves peace of mind and success in both worlds, attaining a balanced mental and physical state and placing everything and everyone in their proper place. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
And chapter 36 Yaseen, verse 83.
So exalted is He in whose hand is the realm of all things, and to Him you will be returned.
Since the entire universe belongs to Allah, the Exalted, and is governed entirely by His authority, no person can escape His laws. Just as citizens face consequences if they disobey the laws of a government within its territory, so too will people face consequences in both this world and the next if they disregard the laws of the owner of all creation. A person may leave a country if they dislike its rules, but there is no place beyond the reach of Allah's dominion. Human beings may alter the laws of their societies, but they can never alter the eternal laws established by Allah, the Exalted. Consider the example of ownership. When someone owns a house, they have the right to set its rules, even if others object. In the same way, since the universe belongs to Allah, the Exalted, He alone determines its laws, whether people approve of them or not. Compliance with His commands is therefore not only obligatory, but also essential for one's own well-being. Those who recognize this truth will strive to obey Allah, the Exalted, by using the blessings they have been granted in ways that please Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such obedience brings harmony, peace of mind, and balance in both mental and physical states. A person may choose to reflect upon the wisdom behind divine commands and prohibitions, recognizing how they benefit both the individual and society, leading to tranquility in both worlds. Alternatively, they may choose to worship their desires, rejecting the teachings of Islam. Yet those who fail to comply with the laws of Allah, the Exalted, must prepare themselves for the consequences of their choice. No objections, protests, or complaints will save them from accountability. Their rejection of divine guidance will bring disorder in this life and punishment in the hereafter, while those who obey will find peace, balance, and eternal success. Therefore, a person must accept and live by the teachings of Islam for their own benefit, even when those teachings conflict with personal desires. This is similar to the conduct of a wise patient who follows the advice of a doctor, knowing it is for their well-being, even if the prescription involves bitter medicine or a strict diet. Just as the patient achieves good health by complying, so too does the person who embraces Islamic guidance attain balance and stability in both mind and body. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the perfect knowledge required to ensure that a person achieves harmony and correctly places everything and everyone within their life. Human knowledge, despite extensive research, remains limited. Society cannot solve every problem an individual faces, nor can it prevent all forms of stress or guarantee proper order in life. Human advice is restricted by biases, limited foresight, and incomplete understanding. Allah, the Exalted, alone holds complete knowledge, and He has conveyed it to mankind through the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This truth is evident when comparing those who use their blessings according to Islamic teachings with those who do not. Patients often trust their doctors without understanding the science behind their prescriptions, yet Allah, the Exalted, does not demand blind trust. Instead, He invites people to reflect upon His teachings, to recognize their truthfulness through clear proofs, and to appreciate their positive effects on life. This requires approaching Islam with sincerity and an open mind, free from prejudice. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
Furthermore, Allah, the Exalted, alone controls the spiritual hearts of people, the true source of peace of mind. He alone determines who attains tranquility, and who does not. Chapter 53 and Name, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
It is clear, therefore, that peace of mind is granted only to those who use the blessings bestowed upon them in the correct manner, as outlined in Islamic teachings. Those who align their lives with divine guidance will therefore find serenity and balance in both worlds. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.